We got the Holy Taco Bell Cup yet again, and we have 3 new drinks to try today. We'll see if we actually manage to get to all of them. Last time stream crashed, that was a unfortunate moment in time, but we are hopefully not going to have that happen again. Change the settings on the computer so it's not going to be all doggy doo-doo and crash in the middle of the stream. Because last time that happened, the camera also cut out, but I managed to figure out how to solve the camera issue, which is fantastic. First soda up we're doing is the Bubbly Burst. This one was one that my friend saw and he was like, wow, that looks miserable, so you should drink that. And so now here I am, gonna drink it. Fantastic. Frick. Uno momento. I'm going to go... We'll use this. Yeah, we'll just have to wait for the carbonation to die down a little bit before we can actually finish filling up the rest of it. But we once again have the tier list. It is blank. That's because I removed all of the images that were there from the last stream, mostly because the computer crashed again and I didn't want to put them back on there. So, we have a new list to go through, or the same list, but just a bunch of new videos to go through. And I don't know why, but it's out of order of how it goes on my anime list, which, I mean, I guess it works out fine because we can kind of look it up by name, but the only issue is I don't remember the names in Japanese of all of the shows. So when trying to find them on my anime list, it can be a little bit difficult. But they have the general order down to them. Alright, but we're just gonna go straight into it. The first anime that we have up is Blue Period. Blue Period has by far one of my favorite representation of artists, and I watched it at the time when I was wanting to become a professional artist. In terms of show, I think it really hits on a different level. It's deep, you know? And it has some of my favorite representation of just characters types in general and artists. And for that reason, we're gonna say it is an S tier. I don't think it was like the best of all time, just because a lot of times throughout the show, it kind of dragged whenever he was like stuck in a rut with artist block, which is a thing that a lot of artists have, so it makes sense that it's portraying that, but so on and so forth. Overall, few parts were dragged, but overall fantastic show. Chihaya Furu is another one that's up high on the list. This one is a sports anime based on a card game. I think it's like a karata is what it's called. But basically there's 100 poems and you end up reading, there's a person who reads out the poems and it's the first to grab the poem or knock the poem out of the way is the one that manages to get that point, and the first one to clear their side wins. Fantastic show. There's also a romantic subplot, which is nice because romance isn't the main part, so it's not gonna progress as much as a unnatural slow progression that most animes have of romance is a lot lower on this one. It doesn't matter as much, just because it's not the main point of the story, because the main point of the story is the main character trying to win at it. It's one of the few sports animes that I actually really enjoyed, and there's some great comedy moments. We have, oh boy, that's one I don't remember right there. Well, I remember it, but I don't remember the name. Welcome back. Yeah, I did have you waiting 3 days. I also looked into Hatsune Miku, playing that on stream. It turns out that all of the individual creators of songs own the rights to the songs. And so it's up to each individual person who owns the song whether or not they copyright strike me, so I'm not able to play it on stream. But from what I understand, there are other games that I could play on stream, like Toho, which I know is a popular one. Well, popular-ish. Bad Apple is popular, but yeah, I'm currently only streaming twice a week right now because I have college that I have to do, but sorry for keeping you waiting so long. Let's see. Also, found out what was wrong with the camera. Turns out I had to turn it off and on again. Who knew that that would work? But yeah, I don't remember the name of this show. I do remember, though, that it's incredibly generic. Basically, the main character is overpowered, but he wants to be average. Typical plotline, you know, just dude wanting to fit in. I don't remember if it's an isekai or not. I think he just ended up doing it, but... Oh, only Miku and Osu? Osu's a good one, yeah. Well, I say that's a good one. I've never played it before, but it looks fun. I want to try that out sometime. Maybe I should play that one on stream. Only copyright-free songs. But yeah, overall, this one was below average. Not a huge one to watch, but yeah. Yeah. That's why I always tell my friends to turn it off and on, so I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not trying that out at least once, but, you know, we live and learn. Alright, I think this is the... alright, this is the... Osan... This one is the one, the... Crap, I can't remember what it's called. Something about a dude wanting to become... No! Crap, I gotta find the title of it. There's Chihaya Furu. Because it's the one where they are isekai'd into another world, but the dude is really hot. And so, they're both dudes. One of them turns into a girl whose main power is that he's the hottest of them all. And so it's basically them trying not to fall in love. As far as comedy anime goes, it's really good. The paintings on the right. Right, this one. Are you talking these things or this thing? Let's see, because I have some plants. These are all books. That right there is an award I got from working at Domino's. I was one of the fastest in the store, and so I got a plaque for that. And then we have a poster way behind back there. Oh yeah, the books. These are the dissectable books. They're the few books I have that I'm okay with actually destroying. It depends. So, like, these are specifically called the dissectables because I was wanting to become an artist for quite a while, and so, or at least a comic, kind of mangaka comic artist. I posted one to Webtoons. It was terrible. It's gonna be so much fun to look back on that. But we have ones like I've been killing slime for 300 years. This one's here because there was a page that just kind of torn whenever I got it shipped because Crunchyroll shipping isn't the greatest. But it's basically a bunch of books that I either ended up getting extra copies of, bought at thrift shops that were slightly, like, damaged and destroyed so that I wouldn't be okay with, like, tearing them apart. And what I would do with them is I would find the pages that I wanted to, like, kind of trace over and copy the art of. Then I would stick them into my sketchbook, which I made a little tab right here, and I could basically pull them out, and then once I had the pages out, I could kind of trace them and reference draw them. And I should have a few pages in here of, like, what that looked like. Just like me trying to learn how to draw. Yeah, so here's like pages where it has the kind of just general artworks of the show and images where I was like, oh, the hair on that person looked really good. I'm going to try and, you know, replicate that so I can learn to draw better myself. But yeah. No, I keep most all my other books are over on that side. But it has mostly manga up here, but there are light novels as well. But yeah, this one of the best comedies there was, as far as, well, not one of the best there was, but it was one of the more entertaining ones. I would honestly say it's probably an S tier. Next up, we have The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic. This one is another isekai. As far as isekais go, they're, for the most part, going to be pretty average, but... Oh, thank you. Art is one of those things where it's like, when you stare at it too long, you start noticing all of the really tiny things. So it's nice to have kind of a fresh pair of eyes to look at them. I still do want to possibly try and become a mangaka or something along the lines of that in the future, but right now that's been put on hold just so I can focus on streaming in college. But yeah, one of the better isekais, I'd say it was above average. Oh, yeah, the fantastic one, Redo of Healer. Unfortunately, that's not on the list because I dropped it pretty soon after I started it. Well, that's a lie. I finished like half the show, but I couldn't get into that one too well. The main character was too angsty. We have Skeleton Knight in Another World up next. Skeleton Knight in Another World, that was one where I had high expectations. Yeah, I'd avoid watching it. It wasn't the best of shows, but, you know, it's one of those that tries to push the boundaries between hentai and anime, and for that reason I was like, dang, I should watch it. A natural response, right? But yeah, Skeleton Knight in Another World, one that looked like it was going to be good, but it turned out to be a average isekai. So on and so forth. Up next, we have Gate. If I remember correctly, Gate has one of your favorite characters. This on the show itself, I think, is a double S. Well, no, we're gonna put it in S. There's a few parts where it kind of drags, but the characters in the show are fun to watch, and it's really fun watching the Japanese army go to an isekai world and just shred everyone with bullets. You know, they stood no chance. It's kind of interesting to see how different, because it kind of, the biggest difference between this world is that there's magic in the world, but it's like kind of a lot of what they have is very primitive stuff in order to fight. But oh, you don't like the show, just Rory, got it. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. It was an entertaining watch, not something that I would like go recommending to my friends or anything, but I had a good time. All right, this one is Gambare Doko-chan, I want to say, or Doko-chan Gambare. We're already on the G's. That's pretty far into the alphabet. Yeah, Gambare Doki-chan. So let's go. You got it, Doki-chan. This one is a short of a girl who's basically trying to get a Guns in Another World ain't for you. Makes sense. I don't blame that. I really like to try and fall into the American stereotype of, you know, absolutely loving guns. So I have to, in order to fall into that stereotype, kind of hit it. But yeah, I can see why it's not the best. Oh, there was that one anime. It was In Another World with a smartphone, I believe, had a gun in Another World. That ruined Guns in Other Worlds for me. But yeah, this one, it's an entertaining one of a girl just trying to get a guy to fall in love with her, but she can't really do it. It's a short, very easy binge. I don't remember if they actually get anywhere or not in the show, but if you ever have 2 hours, I think it's a decent watch. We'll put it in A tier. Alright, next up we have Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. This is probably, I think, like the 4th or 5th anime I'd ever seen. As far as shows go, it was my first comedy, full-on comedy one, and it was very good. Like my friend once told me, though, he couldn't watch it. Oh, you're lucky. I watched both seasons. It only gets worse. It really does. I remember I was enjoying it at first, up until the point that they decided to say, hey, polygamy exists in this world, so you can just marry all of us. And then it was kind of like, harems are already kind of rough, and then they added that, and it was like, this is worse. But yeah, Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, my friend said that he didn't like it because it was very painful to watch because it reminds him too much of myself, and I'm in that same camp. I am completely oblivious, so much so to the point that my dad is generally the one to tell me whether or not people I know have crushes on me. Embarrassing fact about myself. But a fantastic comedy all around. And the dude aspires to be a mangaka, kind of like I used to, so it's extra relatable for me. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the S tier. I think S tier is going to have a lot this stream. But yeah, oh, I think this one is, here we have it. I think this is the, yeah, How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. Yeah, it's really rare. I think as far as harems go, I've only seen like 5 that I actually enjoyed, and I've seen probably around like 70. And so it's a rare gem to find a good one, but occasionally you do get some good ones. Yeah, Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. It's a kind of a, well, self-explanatory show where the realist hero rebuilds the kingdom. There are a few good plot twists in it. I'm not going to spoil any, but yeah. Oh yeah, Moshoku Tensei is a great one. Villainess All Routes, yeah. The All Routes Lead to Doom is another fantastic one. I really like the Fruit of Grisaya, as well as there's one other one I don't remember the name of right now. That was another one. I think it was Quintess Quintuplets was one of the other ones where I was like, I can see why people really like this one, and it's a good one. And they actually chose someone at the end too, which is something you don't get in a lot of harems. But yeah, How the Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. It wasn't a bad watch. I'd mostly say it was probably above average. But yeah, up next we have the oh so famous Goblin Slayer. If you like watching weaklings get slaughtered, Goblin Slayer is definitely the way to go, because you get a lot of that. Just be warned, there's a lot of other stuff in it that a lot of people won't like, especially if they have past trauma. As far as the show goes, I would say it's a fairly below average. I'm not going to put it in F because it is kind of funny watching the main character just be like, have other characters go up to it and be like, why do you only fight goblins? And he's like, I hate goblins. So on and so forth. Yeah, first episode gets dark pretty fast. It definitely tries to go for shock value, which is something I don't think a lot of shows should do. It kind of kills them. But, I mean, to each their own. I know a few people who are obsessed with the series, which is concerning. Oh, one great point to make about the series, though, is that the music artist who does all of the openings, the band Millie, is by far one of my favorites of all time. And they have some epic music throughout the entire show. That's why I don't think I could put it in F or FF, just because it was bad, but it wasn't bad enough that it was painful to watch, because the music was absolutely baller. And up next, we have Is the Order a Rabbit? This one is another CGDCT. If you want to enjoy a bunch of people breaking labor laws, such as working for free, and probably doing way too overhyped. Oh, Goblin Slayer opens. I would definitely give it a listen. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's Within, and there's also Rightfully, and then the most recent one, season to it, was also done by Millie, but I don't remember what it was called. But I don't think I've hated a single one of those. Millie has probably the most songs that have made it into my 10 out of 10 playlist. But yeah, Is the Order Rabbit? CGDCT, pretty average for an anime. Doesn't make it too high on the list. We're putting that in B. Golden Time, the same friend who couldn't watch Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. Entertainment, yeah, that's it. That's the most recent season. Yeah. It's a fire song. They do really good with like instruments and everything, and kind of having crescendos in really well done places, and it's just overall they're a fantastic band. But yeah, same friend who couldn't get through Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. Favorite show is Golden Time. As to why, I don't know, but there were a lot of moments in Golden Time that were comedy gold. Oh, that's fair. I'm not able to make it through a lot of the openings, just because a lot of the openings seem to kind of be very similar in a lot of ways, and I typically like to find songs that are within the realm of, oh, I haven't heard something like this before, it's kind of unique. But yeah, I also not a huge fan of songs that have like 200 BPM, which a lot of them do, but yeah, Golden Time, a few comedy gold moments. We're putting it in A tier just because there's a lot of parts in it where I had to pause the show to get the laughs out, because I couldn't continue watching the show because I was laughing too hard. Same kind of thing like right here with Golden Boys. Golden Boys is a fantastic show. It's I think it's only 4 episodes long, so it's only like an hour and a half watch, but OP and Edie go to Steins Gate, and Overlord does have a lot. Myth and Royd, they're a great band. I have a lot of their songs on my playlist as well. Steins Gate, I always started watching that one, but I haven't fully finished it. I'm kind of waiting to be in the mood for a show that's gonna confuse the heck out of me, but from what I did hear of the first opening, that was fantastic. But yeah, Golden Boys is a double S tier, a lot of comedic moments, and most importantly, I have a friend who is very disgusted easily, and this show is fantastic for just pulling up random clips on it, showing them to him, and having him just kind of gag reflex at it. Very entertaining to watch that. Now, up next we have Grand Blue Fantasy. I don't remember this one that well. All I remember is it's the most stereotypical fantasy that you can watch. You know, dude finds a girl in the forest. The girl in the forest is asleep. He's like, I must protect this person. He protects that person and gets stronger for it. But yeah, we're putting this one in C tier, below average. Yeah, Steins Gate, from what I did watch, it was really interesting. I think I got to the episode where he went and played with the idol girl, a card game for some information. I did get to the green bananas too, which that was a weird scene. But yeah, we have a Grand Blue Fantasy. No, this is just Grand Blue. So I actually originally watched Grand Blue Fantasy because I thought everybody was recommending to watch Grand Blue, and I was like, oh, that sounds fantastic. I look it up, Grand Blue Fantasy pulls up because it was on Netflix at the time. Watched the show, very mid. Then I finally realized that I watched the wrong one and watched the right one. As far as comedy goes, I honestly think it's on the lower end, just because it's just a bunch of loud is funny humor and guys getting drunk and doing drunk things. Overall, I wouldn't say it was below average, I would just say it was slightly above average. But I personally don't fully see the obsession that a lot of people seem to have with this show. The Great Pretender was a... Oh, that's your type of humor. If you haven't seen Grand Blue, then I would definitely recommend it. I know a lot of people absolutely loved it. If you've seen Prison School, it kind of gave me the same vibes as that, as far as, like, the humor goes throughout a lot of it. The Great Pretender is a heist anime, and it's a very fun watch, I think. It was on Netflix for a while, but... Alright, yeah. Prison School was a rough one for me. There was a... Yeah, it was so confusing. A lot of the stuff that they do was just kind of, as you said, wild. But yeah, Great Pretender, I'd honestly probably put in an SS tier, because it's very easy to get sucked into it, and the music on it was really good, and there's a lot of, like, moments in time where you kind of peek into some of the characters' past, and you're like, dang, that's, like, kind of messed up, but the way you're handling it's fantastic. Way to go, you. Oh, here we are. Fruit de Grisai. Probably one of my favorite harems. This one I started to watch because I watched it originally on Crunchyroll. It just kind of looked like an interesting one. It's like the art design on it. It's also, I don't think it's done by Studio Shaft, but it has a very Studio Shaft feel. Gintama? Yeah, I don't have Gintama on the tier list. So when I watched it on Crunchyroll, only like 1 out of every 3 episodes would actually play for me. Otherwise, it would just load forever after the intro scene, and I didn't fully understand why, but I was just unable to watch it. I probably just need to illegally stream it, but yeah, from what I did watch, it was pretty funny, but I think it's one of those shows where you kind of, to some degree, have to watch it in chronological order, just because they introduce characters later on in the series, and unless you're watching the series, you don't actually know who the characters are. You kind of have to guess from context clues who each person is. So mostly just for character introductions, which were a lot of the episodes that Crunchyroll wouldn't let me play. But yeah, Fruit de Grisai, I started watching it. The art style of it is fantastic. Overall fantastic show. One of the few harems where I actually loved it. But recently I was watching a clip channel, and I came across one of the clips, and there was a lot more ecchi in it than I remembered, and I was like, this is strange. I don't remember this being so raunchy at points. And so I went, and I naturally had to rewatch it. Turns out I was watching the censored version originally, and so I had to watch the uncensored version to, get the full art, what the director wanted me to experience. And so I went ahead and did that, and still as great as a show as I remember, and the really raunchy parts are mostly in the beginning. There isn't as much later on in the series, but overall, I would say it's an SS show. A lot of really good art direction that reminds you of Studio Shaft. Yeah, uncensored always, but sometimes it depends on the censorship. I've seen some really funny censorships before, where it's just like, honestly kind of added more to the show than took away. Guilty Crown. Alright, this is probably one of my more unpopular opinions, but I think it's D tier. The reason why is because it's a mecha. I really don't like mecha, and halfway through the show, they kind of like go back to school, which was really confusing. And, well, I don't think they went to school, but it really changed. And the whole fact that they were going to school despite being in a crisis was just very odd to me. I didn't really find that believable. And it's a mecha. I don't really like mechas. But yeah, really, it's the popular opinion. I've heard that it's one of the more praised mecha animes. It's like, you have Evangelion, Darling in the Franxx, and Guilty Crown, I think, are the 3 that are talked about most often. Oh wait, no, there was a Gundam as well. People seem to hate it. I guess that's fair. I really didn't like it. But the opening is one of the few songs I can hear, like, the first word. Oh, Gurren Lagann. That's not on here yet, but I'm in the middle of watching it. It's an interesting ride so far. Yeah, I think this one right here is The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me? Yeah, The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me? It's another isekai where polygamy exists. This is the first introduction to the show, Also one of my first introductions to harems in general, but yeah, I'm still in the first half. It's kind of rough to get through, but I've heard that like later on they're throwing galaxies at each other, which is supposed to be just really funny, and the power scaling just goes way. All right, yeah, second half. I'll have to get through that. Once I do, I'll tell you about it. But yeah, 8-Sun, are you kidding me? One of the worst-off isekais. Yeah, this one is Hanayamata, which is a sports-ish anime. It's a CGT-CT sports school club anime, where the club is basically just a type of dancing, which was an interesting peek into the Japanese culture of it. But as far as shows go, it was slightly above average. Nichijou, yeah, that one's a great one. It's a fantastic comedy. It's on the list. It's probably like SS tier, maybe SSS. There's a lot of really random moments in it where I was a bit confused as to what was happening, but overall fantastic show. Yeah. Alright, here we have this one. My Girlfriend is a Gal. This one is a somehow very wholesome while still being somewhat edgy. On Nichijou? I'm gonna have to look up the characters. Let's see. Alright, I really liked Minakami. She was one of the ones that I thought was very fun to watch. That was she was the, if I remember correctly, the more dead one that had a lot of dry humor to her, which tends to be more my favorite type of humor. And then there was the robot girl with both the relationship between the robot and the creator I thought was really funny as well. But those were probably my favorite characters in the show. I don't remember any names though, because that is my weak point. But yeah, next up we have My Girlfriend is a Gal. It's somehow very wholesome, but still ecchi. Not really sure how they managed to do that, but basically the one dude is like, hey, I want you to go out with me, and the girl's like, okay, and it's just a wholesome relationship. But yeah. Yeah, it's so wholesome, and it's like, the whole fact that the professor just like has so many random things installed on Nano? That was her name, right? Yeah, Nano. The fact there were just so many like random things, and the whole fact that the gear like doesn't even do anything, but it's Nano's like biggest issue. Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, it was a great show. As far as comedies goes, it's definitely one of the better ones. Alright, we have Honda-kun. That's what this one is called. This is the prequel to Bakaramon, if I remember correctly. But yeah, overall, it was an interesting comedy. One of those shows where the kind of main comedy aspect of it gets slightly old, but not old enough that I would drop it down into like kind of painful. But yeah, I'd say it was probably A tier. The whole thing is like the main character is very self-conscious about his self, and he thinks that everybody hates him, and that's why they don't talk to him, but everyone doesn't talk to him because they're all like, no, we can't talk to him, he's too good for us. And it's just a very interesting, it's one that's all based off of misunderstandings, but the misunderstandings aspect on it doesn't go too far. Then we have I don't remember the exact name for this one, but it was a funny one. It's Kimono Michi, Rise Up. This pro wrestler gets isekai'd into a fantasy world where the princess wants him to kill a bunch of creatures and stuff, but yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that's fair. A lot of them are down here that I think are really good. Some of my favorites are actually at the very bottom, which is really tragic, but you know, we'll get to it eventually. But yeah, this one is basically pro wrestler gets isekai'd but loves animals. The princess wants him to basically defeat all of the demons who kind of look like animals, and he's like, heck no, I'm not gonna do that. So he German suplexes her, and if I remember correctly, I want to say it's written by the same person who made Konosuba. So that's kind of the style you're gonna go for as comedy, but in terms of comedy, it was definitely up there, probably S tiers. Yeah, we're gonna try and get through as much of the list as fast as we can. You know, try to spend a little time on each one. Hayate no Gotoku. This is the first manga that I bought in Japanese. The whole premise is main character, family betrays him. He's going to be sold off to the drug lords, the Yakuza, and he doesn't want that. So he manages to somehow become the butler of a rich person. The rich person is very in love with him, but he doesn't even realize it. He's just kind of like, yeah, I'm your butler. I'm gonna do butler things. And their idea of what a butler is very out there. In terms of show, I probably wouldn't put it up in S, but the comedy was really funny. It's all very satirical to a lot of tropes that you see in anime, so they take the tropes and they push it so far to the point where it just stops making yaoi. It's not, no. It's a, I think it's a harem? Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's a harem, but it's one of the ones where, like, the harem doesn't fully show because they focus more on comedy than anything else. But a lot of the characters I found fairly likable, which was surprising considering how many stereotypes there were, like, tropes were in the show just because of how much they were making fun of it. But yeah, up next we have the... Crap, The Devil is Working as a Part-Timer. This was the first anime I ever watched, I want to say back in 4th grade, which would have been in, like... oh, jeez. Who knows when. Probably around 2013, 2014? I don't even know if the show came out then. Probably whenever the show fairly recently came out. You can just look that up. It became public in 2013, yeah, so it was kind of around when it first came out. Ah, welcome to the chat, Usuwan-san. I hopefully didn't butcher that. But yeah, welcome to the chat. B or C for it? Ah, but it's so good. It's like slice of life comedy, reverse isekai, you know? But you're probably right. In terms of show, I do think it's probably around B, but it's definitely up there in terms of like nostalgia because it was the first one I ever watched as a kid. Yeah, we have up next Helk. Helk was an interesting one where they really tried to like push the loud is funny comedy, and a lot of it does tend to be hat on hat, but there's a few moments in the show where you just really bust up laughing. The best character in the show is easily the bird. The bird is exists for no reason other than to be like the comedy relief character and completely break random points of tension in the story. It's Pee-wee is the name. Yeah, fantastic character. But overall, the show is probably in B tier. It's another one of the main character is super powerful, so you're just gonna watch him completely decimate a lot of groups of people, which tends to be a bit more on the boring side when it comes to watching shows. But if that's your niche, then go ahead for it. First animes for me have some high ratings. That's fair, yeah. A lot of people are able to kind of push through the flaws of shows, and that's an impressive ability. My friend Sword Art Online, all of it. I liked Gun Gale, so I can't really judge you for that. And a lot of people thought Gun Gale was like one of the worst ones in terms of like spin-offs and everything, but I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that was I can understand where you're coming from on that one. That was one of my first ones as well. I think you generally give the first animes you watch the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, up next we have the Hentai Prince and the Stony Cat. I don't remember this show too well, but it was one of the first few I watched. In terms of show, I would say it was definitely above, like, average when I first watched it. There's a lot of comedy parts of it, but I think more towards the end it started to get a little bit weird and kind of push more towards a soft magic system that kind of took away from the story. So we're probably going to put it slightly below average, because I do think that kind of second half of the season really brought it down. But if I remember correctly, it kind of leans more towards, like, the Stony Cat grants wishes, but it's like each wish comes with a consequence type show. But yeah, next up we have Hibike Euphonium, which this was a super fun one. I think it does kind of lean more towards like a Yuri. It kind of leans more towards that fan base. But it's a school band anime, and music anime are definitely some of the ones that I enjoy more. You know, like Kids on the Slope, K-On! Those ones were all ones that I really enjoyed. In terms of that, it was really easy to get invested in, so I'll probably put that in the SS tier, but overall, fantastic short story. It does kind of have a damper mood to it, so if that's not your favorite type of show, I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. We have one that spawned the great meme of, you saw that in an anime, didn't you? It's the one where Harumi Suzumiya, I think it is. It should be, because I know I finished it. Did we do that one already, or did I just forget to add it? I may have forgotten to add it to the list. Because it's the disappearance of Harumi Suzumiya. Wait, no, it's the melancholy, whoops. Yeah, so that's gonna be an S. Way down there. Wait, right? Way down there? I think that's like in the later half of the alphabet. Yeah, so we'll get to that one eventually. Yeah, this one spawned the meme of, you saw that in anime, didn't you? Basically, the, I think it's called, after being rejected, I shaved and took in a high schooler. So whenever the Japanese news came out with a dude who was housing a homeless high schooler, everyone was like, we know exactly what show you got that from, because that was like, happened fairly recently after the show started releasing. In terms of show, I think it's a bit on the better end, but yeah, I honestly was convinced as well. But yeah, that's probably because of my lack of knowledge in Japanese language. Yeah, this one is probably, I'd say, A tier. I don't think it's fully to put on the SSS because it's kind of weird. Or I guess legally I have to somewhat say that it's kind of weird, the relationship between the two characters. It's like, tries to be wholesome, but at first the girl's like hitting on him a lot, which was kind of awkward to watch. The later half of the season, though, it does get pretty good. Up next we have, oh, High School DxD. I'm not gonna lie, not many of the characters in this show I liked a whole lot. My boss really loved this one. Me and him definitely don't have the same taste, though. Personally, I would probably put it in B. There were some good moments, like whenever I forget the main character's name, but whenever he finds that slime that he wants to have as his familiar, but they kill it in front of him. Yeah, it's I don't know if I would put it up in S though, because it's a lot of the comedy moments didn't really hit for me because they were kind of just like, ah ha 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 ha, boobs, hilarious. But yeah, I know it's definitely some people's favorite types, like my boss, for example, but yeah. The art change really goes down. Yeah, I dropped it once it got to... I think it was Season 3, when they decided to diverge from the actual source material and completely go off the rails on it, create a new ending for it, but, I mean, that's the same reason why I dropped Blue X Sorceress. It's just because once it does that, it's like, it already ended, I don't want to go back into it and rewatch it, just to kind of do that, but... my boss thought it was really funny. He didn't pitch it to me as being really raunchy or anything like that, so I'm not sure if he was just trying to get me to watch it, or if he wanted to actually, like... If he genuinely thought that. But he definitely... It was one of his favorites. I don't know if people watch it for any other reason, though. Yeah, I think this one is New Girl? I don't remember the name of it. It's, No, it's not New Girl. That's that one show that my sister really likes. Yeah. This is, Is it Gamer Girl? Oh, High Score Girl. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, names will never be my strong suit, but High Score Girl, this was a... I'm not sure what you guys think of it, but I genuinely thought that it was really annoying, the fact that the purple-haired girl never said a single word throughout the entire show, and then the other love interest character kind of felt really forced, as in, like, why would you like this dude? Like, he's obsessive over games. The ending? I'm not gonna lie, I forget how it ends. Because I know, like, she is gonna leave somewhere, and then he goes... No, that's in the middle of the series, isn't it? I don't know. I think when it finished, more than anything, I was like, ah, it's finally over. I'm kind of glad. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Oh, since you're new here, I'll go through what each list kind of means. So the SSS tier is every show like so good that it's peak escapism. Once you start watching it, there's like you're trapped. Like we're talking first episode of Oshi no Ko. There's just no way you're gonna not get absorbed into it. SS tier is a kind of half-half. You're halfway absorbed into it, halfway not. Kind of maybe takes a little while to get into it, but once you do, you're kind of hooked. The S tier is like, it has a few moments where you forget that the world exists, but for the most part, it's just a solid watch. A tier is it's a good show, but like, probably wouldn't recommend it to your friends, or kind of like a guilty pleasure show occasionally. B tier is slightly above average. Nothing much to say about that. C tier is slightly below average. D tier is like, it was pretty bad, but it wasn't painful to watch. F tier is very painful to watch and kind of hard to get through. FF is, why didn't I drop it? My mental health would have like been so much better at the time if I didn't. Oh, Chihayafuru is fantastic. There's no way it's not going there. But yeah, up next we have Himagoto. This one, if you want to see basically high school DxD, but for guys, this is a great watch. It's honestly very interesting to watch from the aspect of, I wonder whether or not girls find ecchi weird. You can watch this one, and as a guy, see whether or not the ecchi is weird on men. Because instead of having, like, the jiggle up there, it's the jiggle down there. But yeah, for that reason, I'm probably going to put it in S tier, because it's a short, very simple binge. Honestly, it is kind of painful to watch, but it's quality, like the pain that you enjoy, you know? Like I'm not a masochist, but like, if I were, the type of pain I would enjoy. This one, I really hated this one. I know that there's an episode between the anime and Felix, and this was a point brought up, but it's just a bad show where she turns into a gremlin and is just in general a nuisance to society. It was painful to watch, I would say. Definitely painful to watch. Up next we have this one. This is the one with the teacher who's like 7 years old. But somehow people expect you to think that, oh yeah, she's gonna be really good at the teaching job because, you know, she's like 7 or 8 years old. I don't remember what it's called. And I don't know if finding it on the list is gonna work, because it's all sort of out of wax. But yeah, not a show I would recommend. I think it's about a play. People who just want to become like actors, and so they try really hard to become actors. It's a CGDCT, below average, I would say. A lot of the comedy moments are typical CGDCT comedy moments, but Umare and Ether, yeah, she's so annoying. Like, I don't even want to go into it because thinking about it genuinely kind of makes me mad. Yeah, this one was I remember this one being really good. I watched a video where it was like top 10 comedy anime that aren't talked about, and this was one of the top ones on there, which genuinely makes sense. Basically, a person spawns from an egg. Yeah, it's like, when you watch it, it's almost like Rent a Girlfriend, where the first time you watch it, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. But then you watch it again, or you think about it, and you're like, wait a second, that was actually, like, really cringe. Like, I don't know why I enjoyed that. But, I mean, Rent a Girlfriend somehow got enough following to, I think, didn't the season 3 either get greenlit or came out? I don't remember. I dropped after season 2, but it's definitely not, in my opinion, a good watch. And yeah, but Hina Matsuri is what this one is called. This one I would probably put in SS tier. Very good comedy. Oh, you should watch it at least once so you can understand it. I actually wrote a college essay about why Rent a Girlfriend is better than another anime. I think it was Osomake, the rom-com where the childhood friend won't lose, purely because they at least had good outfit design. Like, both shows were really cringy, terrible watch, hard to get through. Well, for Rent a Girlfriend, season 2 was hard to get through the first time, but the first season is easy to get through the first time. Second season is hard to get through, and on the second watch, first season's hard to get through. But I wrote a college essay about why it's not the worst, and Osomake is the worst, because Rent a Girlfriend at least had interesting design and characters. But yeah, up next we have Hitoribochi. I think it's like Want Friends, but would watch Nana for fashion. I think I'm like 3 or 4 episodes into Nana. I haven't really been enjoying it all that much, but from what I've seen of the fashion, it does definitely look fairly good. Like the rock girl has a very, she has an aesthetic to her that I think really works with what the show is trying to go for. Yeah, this one is the Bocchi the Rock without music, and to some people better done, but it's a fairly good one. I'd probably put it in S tier. Yeah, I think that's mostly why I dropped it. I started watching it and I was like, huh, this seems like something that one of my sisters would watch, and I couldn't fully get through to it. But yeah, Rent a Girlfriend. It's, the MC is just trash in general, and anytime you're like, oh, in this situation, this would be the best option, he somehow manages to do a 180 from the best option and just jump off into a cliff full of rocks. It's not a, I don't know how he managed to do it or how it really got greenlit for the first season. Maybe it was just like the beginning was so strong that enough people stayed through. Maybe they're like me where they started the manga and they're like, I started it and now I have to finish it, so they keep buying volumes or something, but can't the world amazes me. It's astounding in many ways. Yeah, Ascendance of a Bookworm, some of my cousin's favorites, but yeah, romance MCs are a lot of times feel kind of basic. There's a few where I'm kind of like them, and then there's a few where they're mediocre. But yeah, I can understand not liking a lot of them, but the MC in this one is almost intolerable throughout most of the show, which is why it's one of the few animes I actually managed to drop. I think I managed to drop like 1 in 50 animes most of the time. One of the best isekai. Okay, it's good. I will definitely give that. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, like you have some good romance MCs. Like especially Miyamura from Horimiya is probably one of my favorites of all time. Fantastic show. But yeah, the Ascendance of the Bookworm, personally, I thought it was boring at a few points. I'm gonna be honest. It's good. They have a lot of really interesting ideas, but in a lot of parts, it just feels like it's really slow. So I probably won't put it in S tier because I don't think I ever got like really into it, but I don't think it's bad enough to say that it's only slightly above average. I'd probably put it at a fairly good show. Oh, speaking of Horimiya, SS tier. Sorry, SSS tier. This is I think I've watched this one 4 or 5 times now, and every single time it's somehow manages to be the best. A or B? Oh, I guess that's fair. Especially when Pieces came out, where they just kind of took it and was like, let's mix it up together. But I did find a Reddit post of somebody who had stitched it all together in the correct watch order. And so that's the next thing I'm going to be watching. I can understand for the watch order, though. Yeah, when Pieces came out, I was more than anything, honestly, just to be happy to have more Horimiya. Yeah, it's SSS for me. Fire show. A is fine, but personally SS for Ascendance of the Bookworm. Well, like I said, I don't think I ever got like too into it. I think some of my friends made a really good point where it's one of the few shows where they never have to tell you where they're at. You almost just know where they are from the background design, and they did a really good job just giving you like spatial awareness in the show. But to me, that was kind of like, yeah, it's a cool idea, but I couldn't really get into it all that much. Alright, The Children Who Chased Lost Voices. This one was an interesting one. Kind of gave me a Studio Ghibli vibe, but I don't know if it was a Studio Ghibli. But it was a fairly good watch. For me, I like, because there's an actual romance. Yeah, it's not like throughout the entire show, you're just progressing for the season 12 finale of They Hold Hands. It's like not even halfway through the season that they actually start going out. It progresses at, I feel, a actual natural rate. And it's wholesome too. They have a very wholesome relationship, and I really liked it for that. But yeah, Children Who Chase Lost Voices, I'd probably put it in A tier. It was very interesting in some of the ways that they introduce ideas, and kind of similar to Studio Ghibli, there's a few points in time where you're like, wow, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm here for the ride. But similar to most of the other ones in A and B tier, there were a few parts where it kind of felt a little too slow, and the suspension of disbelief at a few points in time was kind of like, it made no sense to the point where you were no longer there for the ride, but it was a pretty good watch. It's a movie, I think only like 2 hours long. Yeah. Alright, Land of the Lustrous. This one, I'd honestly probably put in S tier, just because there were definitely some times when I got into it, and similar to a few other shows, they have really interesting ideas, not going any higher because more towards the later half of the season, they start introducing more and more things, adding to the lore more and more, so you're kind of like too much lore that you're getting lost in it. You need like a Wikipedia page going through step by step as to what is going on in the show. But I do think it does belong at least in S, because there were some times, yeah, it's the complete CGI one with the people who are all crystal, and they definitely utilized the 3D animation to a point where it made sense and it actually benefited the show more than hurt it. Because a lot of times whenever shows use 3D, they kind of shoot it in the same way that most animes are shot, where it's like character 1 talking, all right, then cut to character 2 talking, so on and so forth. But with this one, they're like, for action scenes, they actually have the camera follow the character as they're running. Kind of if you guys have seen Vivi, that moment when she's like running across the building that's about to collapse, how it kind of like follows her as she runs. But in this one, they have the camera like going around in circles around the fight. But it's overall a really good one that I would recommend. Like I said, kind of later on, it gets so deep into like lore that you kind of start to lose the actual plot of what it once was, but it's great watch. Hunter x Hunter, this is a good one. Oh, you ended up having... Oh, that's fair, technical issues. Those definitely tend to kill the mood for a lot of shows, but I don't know. I watched it on High Dive, which I'm not sure if that's where you watched it, but High Dive, for me, doesn't always have a lot of technical issues, but you invert pieces more. Really? That's interesting. I know a lot of people thought that, well, actually, I don't know what people thought about that. I liked both of them just as much as each other. I think Pieces was kind of hard to follow along a little bit more for me, mostly just because I hadn't watched the first season. The, oh, the prequel. Yeah, okay. Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so the old one, that makes more sense. I definitely do think that way as well. The later half of the season was kind of hard to follow along too. But yeah. Hunter x Hunter is up next. This is probably going to be one of my more unpopular opinions, but I honestly think it was A tier. I never really got super... Actually, no, SS tier. There's one point when I did get pretty absorbed, and that was like with the girl full of snot that was blind, that played, was it Go? I don't remember, but yeah. Horimiya just had more characters and more drama. I guess that's fair. It definitely did have some drama, but it felt like it didn't feel like a lot of the like teenage girl high school dramas that you watch, where it's like, you know, 30-plus-year-old characters trying to play teenagers, and any time anything happens on the show, it's either creating more drama or resolving past drama. There's a lot of moments in Horimiya where it's just like good old comedy, and the drama sometimes feels more realistic, but yeah. I don't know, I'm sorry, but anything you say about the show, I don't know if I'll ever drop it below SSS. It's one of the most rewatchable shows in my opinion, but yeah. Alright, up next we have... What the crap is this one? Ah, the Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Enheinajar. That was probably way off, but we're gonna flow with it. This one, FF tier. I almost dropped it, but... Oh, I haven't seen his profile pic yet. I don't know actually how to do that, but yeah, this one, FF tier. It's a isekai into the past, and they try to do this thing where like what he does in the past alters the future and yada 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 crap, but it was just really rushed. First episode, you're just thrown into the action and you're like, oh, what's happening? They're in middle of a war. Why are they in middle of a war? Then they decide to kind of explain things halfway through, which was, I think, a kind of poor decision, but yeah. No, not Mushoku Tensei. It's nothing like that. Mushoku Tensei is like, oh, his profile pic. Yeah, that's a solid profile pic to have. I wonder, which character is it? Ah, this one is a Hyoka. Hyoka's a good one. The kind of detective show. DMCA. Yeah, that's a good one. Good old Rudius. One of the few characters that I can remember the name of because he's a legend. Yeah, Hyoka is a... Yeah, a lot of people really hate the MC. He's like one of those characters that like he starts out really trashy, but it's the character growth is almost what you're there for throughout the show, and it's really cool seeing him grow. And unlike most isekais, Moshoku Tensei, he actually keeps like who he was in the past for the first while. Like it still affects him to the future, whereas most isekais it's just like, oh, I'm in another world, great, I'm gonna change every fiber of my being and it's somehow gonna work out, as if that is actually possible. Yeah, Hyoka, I'd put an S tier, just because there were a lot of times when I was really into the show, and it's one of the few detective shows that I really enjoyed. Really, it's a different, because I have the light novels, I just haven't read them yet because they're pretty far back on the list. But yeah, I can understand. Read all of it. It's like I said, it's pretty far back on the list. I think I'm in the middle of like 8 different series right now, and I at least need to get caught up on to the books I own. As soon as I do that, I'll read all of it. I'll drop a review for it too sometime. But yeah, Ichigo Marshmallow, honestly, a sin that there isn't more of it. It's one of those shows where it's like CGDCT, but really well done, kind of more into the Iyashike type genre, which I personally really enjoyed. The characters are all cute. So, yeah, makes sense. She's definitely the one who I wanted to win the most as well. A lot of people voted for Roxy, but no, Sylphiette is definitely top tier character. Yeah, absolutely best girl. Yeah, Ichigo Marshmallow. There's only one season, but if you've ever seen that show where it's the clip where it's of a person who is just getting bullied by the teacher, where it's like anytime any student does something wrong, he always turns to the same character and is like ghosted out in the hallway like this is your fault, even though it's like not his fault. But yeah, I'd probably put this in S tier because it's one of the better comedies out there. I really enjoyed it. There were a lot of times when I did get sucked into it, but not enough to be in like SS tier. But yeah, up next we have, I think, it's that anime. But yeah, this is when supernatural battles became commonplace. This one, honestly, for the show itself, it's probably only like B tier, above average in terms of quality. But there's that one moment in the show. Yeah, it's all over the place. But yeah, this one, if you've seen the clip of the person who's just like, I think it's considered one of the best like line deliveries ever done in one sitting, of the one person who's just like yelling at her friend because she doesn't understand what he's saying and she's just upset. And for that single clip, it's like, it's S tier. You don't understand? Clip makes S tier. Yeah, that's the full reason it goes up there. In terms of actual show, it's probably only around B tier, but that one clip sends it all the way up to S tier because it's just way too well done to ignore. Yeah, up next we have Inuyashiki. This is the one with the dude that has the finger guns and points it at people that's like bang and they die, and he kills a bunch of people in gruesome ways. Honestly, I'd probably say A tier. I never got too into it, but there was a lot of interesting parts of the story. The whole kind of premise is like you have an old man who's given a second chance at life by becoming a robot, and then you have a teenager who's like really depressed and kind of just like nothing matters in the world, who gets the powers, and it's basically old man super kind with it and teenager decides to become the school shooter. That's kind of and it shows the dichotomy of those two people. Yeah, there's a lot of parts about it that are forgettable. Honestly, I think does it belong in A tier? I don't know, now that I'm remembering it, I don't remember a lot of the clips with the old man, and it seemed to really force the narrative of with power comes great responsibility throughout a lot of it, and the old man's like humble beginnings, trying to start anew, have his family love him, and it was just kind of like, You mentioned that Zoro, oh yeah, the character, yeah, that whole scene whenever he's like basically tormenting the high school girl after he just killed her family. Is like, so want to hang out? What's your favorite anime? And she's like, One Piece. And he's like, oh, who's your favorite character? And the girl just starts crying because he just murdered her family. It's an interesting show just for the dichotomy of it, but there's a lot of points where it just kind of drags on, and some of the villains in the show are so evil that it just doesn't really make sense. Not to mention the ending of it was kind of like a downer, because he spends this entire time like living up to redemption, and then it's like self-sacrifice, but then the self-sacrifice doesn't work, so it's self-sacrifice, and so on and so forth. I think that kind of brought the show down a few points too. Inferno Cop. Yeah, when he was talking to the girl. Yeah, Inferno Cop is honestly, it's F tier. It's not like so bad that you want to drop it just because all the episodes are really short. It's basically Pop Team Epic, but if they wanted a story to Pop Team Epic, where a dude was a cop on fire, the animation quality of it is like the PNG images of people just clicking the image and dragging it around. That's the best way to describe it. Plot points all over the place. It's a wild ride, to say the least, but definitely not one that I would fully stick around for if I were you guys. But like, if you want to watch just brain rot on steroids, that's the show for you. All right, this is a Nagatoro, which in terms of comedy, I'm gonna say it's below average. I really didn't like Nagatoro or the president or the main character. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't like any of them. It was basically just a really dull character, gets bullied by people, and we're supposed to somehow believe that he falls in love. That's like a type of masochism that I don't think I'll ever understand. Very mid. Yeah, mid. Isekai Cheat Magician. This one was I watched when I was in a desperate point of time in my life, because I had almost run out of isekais to watch. Because I had seen too many of them, and so I was scouring the internet for lists of people who have seen 100+ shows just to try and find one isekai to watch, because I was in the mood to watch trash. Oh, so it sounds like an average isekai, but what you don't know is that it's so average that it's bad. Like, it's most isekais have the plot point that makes it unique. You know, you have the vending machine isekai, where, hey, he's a vending machine. You have the wrong way to use healing magic, which is the healing magic isekai, where he basically heals himself for getting beat up all the time, and that's how he fights people. And it's like, they take these interesting premises that at least bring it up to like below average. But this one had no interesting premise. It's very... The sword one, are you talking reincarnated as a sword? Because if so, I do think that was... I don't know if I would say it was fire. I'd probably put it like high B, lower B. High C, lower B. But... because it was kind of like on point average for me. Yeah, there was a... Unuyashiki, not Inuyasha. That's what this one is called. Yeah, reincarnated as a sword. That one had a few interesting points. There's that one evil character that they introduced, and it was very clear that that character was only introduced purely for them to test out the new ability that the girl got. But yeah, I can understand why people would put it on S. In terms of isekai, it's definitely better. Yeah, they did have a good relationship. It's mostly the dude who's just like, I want to help this person out, and that's kind of nice and wholesome. Yeah. Inuyasha. Personally, I thought it was probably around A tier or S tier. There were a few times when I got really into it, but the most important reason though, and I'm going to put it on SS tier, and the reason for this is purely because my sisters, specifically my younger sister, yeah, it's not like the greatest of shows, but there's a few good moments to it. Kind of similar to like how Pokemon has a few good points to the show, but it's like kind of meh throughout the entire story. To Ranma, I don't know if I've seen that one, but yeah, it's I put it in SS tier for no other reason than that my little sister makes fun of me for watching anime, calls me a weird nerd, geek, whatever you want, whatever she wants to call me at the time. But as she calls me this is the one show that I can bring up because I watched this with her, and she thought the main character was hot. So anytime she makes fun of me for it, I can just bring up the fact that she finds them hot, though, like characters from anime hot, and for that reason, it is an SS. It is the best Uno reverse I have against her. It is the peak of getting her to shut up. Alright, up next, we have, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. This one is Ranma is the one where he turns into a girl by touching cold water. I don't think I've seen that one. We're gonna add that to the list. Ranma. Is it the Ranma 1/2? I'm gonna guess it is. Let's see. Alright. That's on the list now. We'll give it a watch. At some point in time, it'll be on the next list. I guess once I have another 50 anime to throw up here, I'll throw that, do another one of these reviews. Of just the 50 new ones. I'm not gonna do the entire thing again. But yeah. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. Another one of the ecchi kind of anime. It's I think it's one of the more higher rated ones, but yeah, it's I wouldn't rank it that high. I'd probably put it in C, below average, because there were a few kind of moments where I was like, oh, that's funny, but most of the show it was just kind of, oh, haha, look at this funny thing, and then you're just kind of thinking, I don't see the funny thing, but yeah, we can assume it's funny. It's basically complaining is funny and loud is funny throughout a lot of it. Alright, this one, I don't remember the name of it in English, but it's something about a vampire, which is really interesting at first. Whenever I first started it, I probably would have ranked it at A tier, possibly S tier. As the show went on though, it kind of fell off to the point where I'd probably rank it as a C. But the entire point is that she's a vampire. Vampires become strong by drinking blood. That's how they gain their abilities. But she has a fear of blood, so she doesn't drink it. There's a plot twist in it. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, so I'm not gonna tell you guys what that plot twist is. But it's pretty good, at least for the first half. But then the second half, it kind of just becomes average, and I don't know. Once you start from like a good point and then you go down to average, I think it drops the show down even more, because it's like it shows that you can make a good show, but it just didn't end up happening. But yeah. Smartphone in Another World, FF tier. I hope nobody has any complaints about that one. I hate that it's also one of the first ones I watched. Yeah, I typically try to stay away from vampire shows just because it feels very catered towards the female audience. But more often than not, like when you watch them, they just feel very shoujo-y, which isn't always the worst thing in the world. But every now and then you get a comedy one that isn't about that. I think another one that I watched was Noblest. That one didn't feel very shoujo-y, but I still wouldn't rank that one very high. Next up we have Restaurant in Another World. Another one of my boss's favorites anime, the same one who loves High School DxD. I'm not sure exactly where his tastes come from, because these two shows feel very polar opposite. This one is like a very wholesome show about people eating food. Then you have High School DxD, which is not very wholesome and about eating something other than food. But yeah, this one I'd probably say it's a S tier. There's a few points where it kind of dips down, kind of drags a little, but throughout most of the show it's a very wholesome watch. You know, if you ever need to fall asleep, that's the one to get into. Speaking of vampires, the worst one is Rosario Vampire. I have not seen that one. False. Oh dear. We're gonna have a debate in chat. I don't know. I think it's the best one. Oh dear. I haven't seen too many vampire ones, so I can't speak much on that, but alright, up next we have this one, whatever it is. We're gonna try and find the English title. Or at least one of them. Crap, what are you? Oh wait, no, this is a Joker's game. Alright. This one is espionage, but unlike most anime, it actually kind of gets espionage correct, in the sense that it's not that exciting. Like, there may be a few exciting moments here and there, but for the most part, you're just, like, living in it. But yeah, this is a A tier. Few moments where it drags, but overall, decent watch. Yes, I am curious as to why you think it's the worst, as well as why you think it's the best. Like, give the opinions, like. Oh, is that the one you were telling me about where it was similar to Engage Kiss? Ah. That makes sense, yeah. A similar case of the show botching it, whereas the manga actually being pretty good. Alright, up next, we have K-On! K-On! Is one that's very popular. It's a CGT-CT. I don't think I need to explain it too well. I think it's popular enough that you don't need to go too much into the premise of it. It was a good watch. There were a few times when I got into it. I don't think I would rate it higher than S though. I do like music anime, and that's why it goes on S tier, because sometimes when they play songs, you're like, ah, this is the bop right here. And some of the comedy was pretty good, but yeah, I think when it has an ecchi tag, you don't expect as much. But a lot of times when you're watching a show and you've read the source material to it, it can completely ruin the show if you actually know what it could have been. That happened to me with how the prince raised the nation out of debt. Hey, how about treason? And it's like, that show was very, the book itself was really good, but when they did the anime, they completely botched it. But yeah. Alright. Next up we have the I think it's Harem Labyrinth, Another World. It's a very interesting. Another one similar to like Redo of Healer that tries to push the boundaries between what is hentai and what is anime. In terms of show, it's below average, definitely below average. It's the same character throughout the entire thing, very ecchi. It was honestly painful to watch. But yeah. Up next, we have Joshiraku, which that one is an interesting watch. It's the one where it kind of does the like comedian art, follows a bunch of people who do the comedian art where you sit down on a pillow in front of a big audience and you're basically telling a story and trying to get comedy out of it, mostly done through puns and stuff. But yeah, it's a show that relies heavily on like Japanese culture, so if you don't fully understand a lot of the references, then it's not going to be as good. But it has that the ending is the really popular one with the 4 girls dancing and the one on the left falling down midway through the dance. Oh yeah, Edie is fire. But yeah, in terms of actual show, I would say it was probably upper B. Like I said, you kind of have to know a lot of the references, and if you don't, a lot of them fall flat. Like, mostly references, I had to look up what they were talking about just to kind of get an inkling of what, and whenever you have to do that, it's kind of like explaining the joke to the point where it's no longer as funny. But it was an interesting watch. Alright. Now time for my least favorite show of all time. This is probably what I would consider the worst show in existence that I actually have finished. There's a few that I really didn't like, but I dropped them because they were pretty bad. But it's a Isekai Cheat Skill. Yeah, the don do 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 don do 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 don do do do. That's a good scene right there. Yeah. Wait, are you saying that the Isekai cheat skill is okay, like this one, or talking about Joshiraku? Because one of them is okay, and the other one is garbage. Because this one right here, this one was like a no, it's not okay. It's it's like if you had the rotten curdled milk, completely rotten, the type where even the most oblivious person in the world would recognize that this milk is rotten, and took the cream of the rotten milk and tried to formulate it into a angsty like 8th graders high school fantasy. This is what this show would be. It's watching it. You read the manga, it's slightly better. That's fair, yeah. Manga do tend to be a bit better. Worst isekai is C? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one. But yeah, this one, I put it in FF tier, because I can't do it. It's like the entire show, the animation of the show, they have like moments in time where he's walking his dog, which can, anime logic transform, but as he's watching the dog, the way they animate it is so that his hand is hiding the entire time, so you never actually see the hand animations. And having gone to like animation classes and art classes, you can see all of the shortcuts that they took. Like, you think it looks really nice, but that's up until the point that you like actually recognize what they're doing. A lot of the animation they do isn't animation, it's almost like slideshow images of people with like their mouth flaps being the only thing moving, and instead of actually having movement on them, they just have 2 images that move slightly, and they don't even move in the same direction a lot of times, so it just kind of doesn't even follow the logic of depth. But story itself feels like it was written by a like middle schooler who was like just trying to get out all his fantasies on a paper. Oh, the 3D element, yeah. They, I don't know if that 3D element is the worst. I think the 3D element that I've hated the most so far comes from the, I don't remember what it's called, but it's a newer one that's coming out right now. What day did it update? It's a seasonal coming out right now. It's the one about the dude who, like, basically goes to a class. His entire class gets isekai'd. They all are like, you know, get the super ability, kind of like a Arefuerta, except the main character, oh, here it is. The main character, failure frame. I became the strongest and annihilated everything with low-level spells. Worse than the X-Arm? Oh, I haven't seen X-Arm. I've heard it's really bad. I typically try to avoid shows that get a really bad rap, especially after High Guardian Spice. But this one, the adaptation of it skipped some of the story. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. They do that quite a few times. I think one of my favorite things about anime is how much of the story they actually do adapt compared to, like, Hollywood movies when they adapt a book or something and they end up having to cut out a lot about it because they don't want to make the movie 3 or 4 hours long. Yeah, this one, first time you see the dude, he's getting beat up by his father and crying. But while he's crying, he, like, goes to class, basically gets completely trashed on. The goddess of the world is like, ha, you're so bad, like, you have such a low-level skill that we're gonna basically send you off to a very high-level dungeon so that we don't have to kill you, but it's basically us killing you. So he goes there, and then while he's, like, struggling to get out of there, he's like, they don't know me, they don't know that these tears I'm crying aren't tears of sadness, but tears of anger. And as he's basically being very angsty and going through life in general, he's just like, all of a sudden very edgy, very cool, and then becomes really powerful. And yeah, this has the worst 3D animation, I think, because any point in time, if they show anything above the shoulder shot, it's 3D animated and it's not done well. Whereas with this one, it was only whenever there were, like, high action scenes, if there was ever an action moment. So for that reason, I'm kind of like, it's not the worst 3D animation ever, but it's still pretty rough. Yeah, I think Mushoku Tensei, I think on the, I don't remember what it was, but I think I recognize that they did have some. Yeah, I don't know. I did once you do an animation class, you pick up on it a lot easier, because the one I took went into both 2D and 3D, and once you kind of learn, like, what it looks like, you catch it right on the dot. But I don't know. I think Mushoku Tensei is one of the few that actually did it a bit better than most other shows do, because there are times when it's done really well. Like, Love Live is one that does it really well, to the point where sometimes you can't even tell whether or not it's 3D or 2D, and, like, professionals will look at it and kind of be like, I think it's 3D. Like, they're never, like, 100% sure. But Kamirabai, I had to drop that one. Once they killed off the friend, I was kind of like, okay, but, like, couldn't he bring him back? My favorite 3D animated show is going to be Land of the Lustrous. I think it's, as far as 3D animation, has definitely the best. But yeah, Kamirabai, it had some interesting things, but I couldn't get into it enough to not drop it. Alright, I think this one is the one of the Farming in Another Worlds, which if I had a nickel for every time a Farming in Another World anime came out, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice. If I remember correctly, this is the, I want to say this is the one where he's, like, the overpowered farmer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Doesn't seem... Oh, no, this is the... Crap. We're gonna have to look it up. I think it is Farming Life in Another World. Wait, no, we don't want to go to the Crunchyroll site. I want to go to the... Here we go. Once I see the characters, I'll recognize it. Ah, yes, the vampire wife girl. Yeah, this show was a... There's 2 Farming in Another World ones that I remember pretty well. This one is the better one. It is an isekai. In terms of isekai, it's definitely one of the better isekai, but I don't know if I could stick it above average just because it is still an isekai. And it's somewhat weird how there's the somewhat weird, the whole fact that, you know, every resident that goes there is the girl. You can't tell the difference. So I don't know if there's more. You may have seen one that I haven't. But this is the one where he dies and gets reincarnated into a forest that's like supposedly really dangerous, but he builds a farm, runs into like a vampire that's like half dying, nurtures her up, and then there's the farm on a roof of a school. I don't think I remember that one. But yeah, that's this one. The other one I watched was the one where he throws a carrot. All he wants to do in life is farm. So he throws a carrot at a dragon, but he's so good at farming that the carrot kills the dragon, and he basically becomes overpowered for it, and everybody's like, hey, you should join the knights. And it's basically the whole point of it is the whole comedy aspect is the fact that he's over there like, I just want to farm, but then everybody's like, but what if you didn't, and instead you enjoyed a nice life of working for the knights because you're too strong to just be a farmer. But that one I don't like. Actually, we may be able to just try and find that one, and then I can throw it on the D tier. No, I'm not going to do that. We'll come across it later. Alright, this one next up is the... If I remember correctly, it's like Children of the Sea? Yeah, Children of the Sea. Okay, this one, more than anything, felt like it had a lot of premise behind it, but when it came to the premise, was very hard to get into because the premise wasn't really well described. So throughout the entire show, it's just kind of like, yeah, this person is like not a full person, but not farm focused. I know the one that came out recently, the gang one, had a garden up on the top. It was a Windbreaker, I think is what it was called. I know that one had a garden on top of the school. Other than that, I don't know if I can remember any other ones. Yeah, Windbreaker's the one with like the gangs and everything, and the main character's like being accepted for the first time and doesn't fully understand why people are accepting him, and that's supposed to be funny and all that. But yeah, Children of the Sea, really interesting animation and everything. I don't know if I could put it above average though, just because the lore that they were trying to portray was a bit difficult to understand and wasn't really well done. And there's that whole thing where like they disappear and you're kind of like, why'd they disappear? And then if I remember correctly, there's this whole LSD trip, but yeah, made some this is an interesting one. Basically, main girl is studious but works at a maid cafe for money, and person finds out and basically teases her for it. SS, I don't know if I'd rank it that high. I'd probably rank it above average B tier, just because I don't like the main guy. That's your first romance? That's fair. So it does have that nostalgia factor. Yeah, it was I don't know, to me this is kind of along the lines of like Nagatoro, but like better done than Nagatoro, because, you know, at least some of the characters are interesting, namely the main girl. But the guy I just couldn't get into. So I'm going to stick that on B tier, but I can understand why a lot of people do enjoy it and why it's SS for them. But yeah. Oh boy. I remember this one, but not well enough to remember the name. We're gonna have to find it. I swear, if only the shows were more organized, which is completely my fault for making them so disorganized. I remember it. I recognize. Oh, I remember now. This is the My Sister Two Shots People or whatever one. I think it's similar, somewhat similar to like my One Kill Mom or One Shot Mom. But honestly, it's not like, it's almost like the worst version of that. The other one was a little bit better. This one, I think the only good thing it had going to it was I really liked the ending song to it. Other than that, it was probably D tier. Actually, no, I think I felt some physical pain while watching it, so we're gonna stick that in F. This is the I get reincarnated into another world, or second time getting reincarnated into another world. I'm not gonna try and find it because it's probably somewhere on the list too far away for me to really try and find it. But yeah, this one, interesting premise, but it's basically exposition uh, plot dump, I think is what it's called. No, info dump. It's basically info dump the anime, as you follow this character who has already been in this world, so everybody already knows him. And as he travels through this world with somebody who doesn't fully know the world, he's basically like, ah, this is this person who did this thing and this thing and this thing in this other world, and they're going to help us in this way and this way and this way. So it's basically a info dump the anime, which it was another one that was painful to get through. Yeah. Alright. This one. What is this one? Crap. I really should have organized this better. I think it's down? Maybe we can do a reverse image search. Oh wait, no, here we go. Ah! Yeah, interspecies reviewers. This is an interesting one. In terms of pushing the boundaries between comedy and hentai, I think this is one of the better ones. It's basically a bunch of people, a group of 3 guys plus one other person. The one other person continually changes. It's a new person every time. But they go to a bunch of brothels and basically review the brothels dependent on which streamer, well, not streamer, which person working at the brothel was the best, and they're basically reviewing the different species in terms of brothel scores. Honestly, B tier. It was better than High School DxD, but I don't know if I would say it was that great. There were a few moments where one of the characters is an angel, and these 2 other dudes are basically just slowly corrupting the angel more and more, and that was funny to watch happen. But in terms of the show itself, it was kind of okay. It got a little repetitive later on, but they did have some interesting takes on quite a few things. It's almost like weird kinks you never would have thought of the anime. It's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. Here we have the wait a second, I think we already... No! This is the other one. Arch 0699. This is the other pharmacy one where the kid like solves the Black Plague. Because we did the first one that I saw a while ago, but this one's in terms of fantasy where the dude goes to another world to become a doctor pharmacist, it's one of the better ones. It is still an isekai, but in terms of isekai, it's one of the better ones, so it goes in C tier. I definitely wouldn't say it's peak, but it's an interesting one. I enjoyed it to a degree, but not enough to like put it in B, because C is like the average isekai, you know, like the higher end isekai, but D is the lower end isekai. Still searching for the one you told me about. Alright, got it. Yeah, whenever you find it, do tell, because it's an isekai I must watch. But yeah, alright, we have Tomazaki is a bottom tier character. This is an anime all about learning social skills for gamers. You know, have you ever struggled with self-confidence and interacting with other humans? Then I would recommend this one, because it goes through it and basically teaches you how to gamify life so that you can try and get your high score and fall in love easily. But yeah, basically, characters are... There's 2 pro gamers, one... Yeah, it is unfortunately somewhat relatable, which was kind of sad, but A tier, I'd say that's fair. There was a few moments in the time when the show was somewhat of a drag, but like watching him kind of just really struggle, it was really fun kind of watching him evolve as a character, slowly grow, and become just a better person overall, as well as like understanding social cues. And as someone who only understands a few and is oblivious to most of the world around him, it was a very good watch in terms of actually learning about the world around me. But yeah, alright, up next we have J-sama Will Not Be Defeated. I did not like this one. I'm gonna put this one in D tier, because it was almost painful to watch, but not painful enough. Basically, a demon is super strong at one point in time and gets defeated, and in her cockiness decides that even though she's been defeated and is now super weak, she's still gonna be the strongest, and basically refuses to admit to be weak. It wasn't something that I really loved. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't like it as well, but there's still some people out there who would enjoy the show. I know whenever it was coming out, it was one of the higher rated of the season. But yeah, watching too many isekais, I feel that. I feel that. I'm surprised I can sometimes tell isekais apart by the main character just because they're the same copy-pasted character for every single one. But yeah, they're rough, man. Up next, we have what I consider to be one of the better harems out there. Better than Date Alive, in my opinion. I apologize for that arc. But yeah, this one, to me, is probably SS tier. The entire plot of the story, Iceblade Sorcerer shall rule the world. That one was... Is that the... That's right there, yeah. It's getting dragged on a bit too much. Like, if it weren't overdone, I would agree. I really would agree. It's a lot of them feel very unoriginal. It's like they take the same plot premises and say, okay, but what if instead of being like a vending machine, instead of being a sword, instead of having an overpowered skill or being really good at healing, we, you know, had this other thing that hasn't been done before. But it's like in almost every isekai, you can pretty much guarantee there's going to be a beating the bandits point, there's going to be a saving the heroine point, there's going to be a point in time when they're probably like, someone's like, oh, you're so powerful, and they're like, ah ha ha, ah shucks, man, don't praise me that much, like, I'm not that strong, or they just don't even realize at the very beginning that they are that strong. There's just a whole lot of points where every isekai genre seems to have it, and for that point it just honestly seems a bit overdone, especially whenever you have really fantastic shows like Mushoku Tensei to completely blow them out. Yeah, there's Mushoku Tensei, Re:Zero, those both were fantastic isekais. I guess technically Restaurant in Another World is an isekai, Gates an isekai, those ones were all fairly decent in my opinion. But yeah, in terms of, I understand why it gets dragged on, because it's just somewhat painful whenever you see the same thing over and over again. But at the same time, that's probably why so many people go back to it, is because it's never anything new, so you never are surprised by anything, which to some people is a comfort. But yeah, up next we have the I max out my defense anime. Yeah, 10 plus, yeah, like we can actually go to this season and point out every isekai that's coming out this season, because we have at least of the ones I know, this one right here is an isekai, this one's an isekai, I don't know if Code Geass is or not, but we have Crusade to Another World. I'm not sure if that one is. This one right here is an isekai though. This is not an isekai, but it's very isekai-esque. It's basically an isekai without having the main character be isekai'd. We have, let's see, Oshiri no Ko is an isekai. That's a good isekai though. This is an isekai right here. This one is another one of those ones where it could be an isekai if they just made the main character live in another world. We have isekai right here. Another one where not an isekai, but basically an isekai. Another basically an isekai. We have let's see. Oh, this is a vampire one coming out this season. It's kind of weird. It's like a vampire if you mixed it with Gakugen babysitters. Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't, but by definition of the genre, I think it kind of is. Just because he does die and get reincarnated. But in terms of isekai, it does enough of a twist and does enough of like new stuff that you never, it's not boring. But yeah, this right here is an isekai. This is an isekai. There's too many isekais. Yeah, Ochiko no Season 2, been fantastic. I've quite enjoyed that one. But yeah, maxing out my abilities. This one is honestly C tier. I know a lot of people really like it, but it's another power leveling fantasy where the character basically levels up for really dumb reasons, and the game devs are probably the most annoying people. More of is time travel. That's fair. In terms of time travel anime, I think there's like Steins Gate, there's Erased, and the only one I can think of other than that is Re:Zero. Yeah, it's not fantasy, but you also have shows where isekai doesn't have to be strictly fantasy, because it's kind of like living in another world, which I guess in that instance because if I remember correctly, isekai purely means like other world. World meaning like society, not necessarily Earth. Ah, Real Life is a good one, yeah. Vivi's fantastic. But yeah, that was a... It's a other world, which I don't know if, going by that definition, either Oshinoko would be considered an isekai, but it is a reincarnation one, which I know a lot of people do associate with isekai. Alright, up next we have the Grim Reaper is My Best Friend, I think. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's something along those lines. This one is a very... Oh yeah, very hidden gem. Vivi is like, honestly, in my 10 out of 10 anime. I'm trying to learn one of the songs on piano, because it's just a cool song. A lot of the music was really well done. The playlist is honestly probably one of the better playlists to like listen to when studying, because it's like really good music that just works really well in like the background, or if you just want to focus on it. But yeah, hidden gem. I tried to get my friends to watch it, but they didn't, mostly because I tried to watch it with them, and they're the type of people who only watch and finish shows that watch it on their own. That is true, they do kind of have that power. I don't know if that would be considered like just innate talent though, because it's like the doctor, I can understand the motivation, because like the sister doesn't necessarily start out as a good dancer. She has to like learn how to dance at first, whereas the dude is just kind of good at acting. But I think the whole reason he was good at acting was because he was like a kid in an adult in a kid's body, and so he was more just above average for children, and then he just kind of learned as he went on. Because he does talk about the mentor does talk a lot about how Aqua trained a lot. I think the only superpower they were born with was that they were born hot. Other than that, I would say most of it's kind of like they kind of had to learn how to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think the Grim Reaper is My Best Friend. This one's very cute and wholesome. The ending has a pretty good song. In terms of show, though, it does kind of give like the same repetition in terms of humor. The whole humor of it is that the main guy is very oblivious to the fact that no one likes the main girl and pretends that she's the Grim Reaper, whereas he's just like, oh my gosh, you're the Grim Reaper? That's so cool. Doesn't realize that they mean it as like an insult or anything. But yeah, for that reason, it's probably not going to go on to S. If they had a little bit more variety in terms of the comedy, it would probably be a bit higher, but I probably wouldn't rank it too high. Oh boy, this one. I do not remember the name of this one. Oh, I found it. That's rare. Oh, never mind. It doesn't even have an English name. This one's weird. It's basically like children being married off to apparitions, which... Yeah, Devilman Crybaby isn't on the list. It's one that I dropped, and I didn't put any that I dropped on the list. I could probably do a new one later, too, of, like, all the shows I've dropped. Because there's some that I've dropped, not because they're, like, bad or anything, but just because I didn't purely love them. But yeah, I'm assuming you meant Devilman Crybaby. I'm not sure why it's blocking the word out, but... Yeah, this one was just very bizarre in a lot of ways. I'd honestly probably say it's a D, but it is a short. I think it only takes like an hour to an hour and a half to watch the entire series, because each episode is, what, only like 5 minutes long? No, not even that. It's only 3 minutes long per episode, only 12 episodes, so you're looking at, I think, even under an hour. It's like, what, 12 times 3? 36? Yeah, that's under 40 minutes. So yeah, if you ever want to watch something really weird, then yeah. That's fair. I know a lot of people really love Devilman Crybaby. I personally couldn't really get into it. The animation style was interesting, but at the same time it was kind of weird, to the point where like once they like went to the underground area where like I don't know exactly what happened in the underground area, but once they got there, it's very acid trippy, which once the show gets kind of acid trippy, I tend to lean a little bit more away from it. Just because I don't like my brain hurting too much. Yeah. Alright, Teasing Master Takagi-san. This one is a very cute one. And while there is kind of the same overall joke that she's teasing him, it's done in a lot of enough variety that it never feels repetitious. Well, it starts to feel repetitious, but as soon as it does, they change it up. But yeah, I'd honestly probably say that this is an SS one. Also, SS one just because the show itself, if you're learning Japanese, this is a fantastic show to like start with. So much so that I bought the manga to it. I don't know if I have it quick to grab, so I'm not able to actually grab it while still staying on camera. But watching the show, if you go onto Netflix, you can turn on the Japanese subtitles, and it's supposed to be very good for like actually immersing yourself in the language, because it uses, for the most part, very simple language. You know, it's mostly like them kind of saying the same things while occasionally adding variety to it. But yeah, SS show, fantastic show. You know, it is the superior version to Nagatoro. But yeah, up next we have the vending machine isekai, which I did to some degree give my opinion on this last time, but better than most of that are teasing. Kaguya-sama. Wait, you hate Kaguya-sama? I guess I can understand why. My friend took a long time to get into it. Season 1, it all kind of takes place in that same show. But it's kind of funny to me, because they're all like, the teasing is all done to try and get them to admit that they like each other. And so it's a very kind of comedy. I don't know if I would put it higher than Teasing Master Takagi-san, but I'd probably put that in S tier. And the season 3 finale was fantastic to that. But yeah, in another world as a vending machine. This one, I gave my opinion on it last stream, but it's kind of, I think people give it a lot more credit because the premise of it sounded like it was going to be awful. But whenever they got to actually like talking about it, like whenever they actually got to watching it, they were like, oh, it's not as bad as I would expect it to be. It's not an A though. It's not. It's I think you're blinded by the fact that you expected it to be worse, but it exceeded your expectations, so you're ranking it higher. I think that's what most people are doing with it. Because honestly, it's average. It has like all the same plot points. Like there's the bandits that he defeats, you know, except in this case he actually like gets taken by the bandits, is in a cage, and he basically like rescues the damsel in distress that's also living there, who's the scientist. You know, there's all those plot points. He's like super strong, so everybody loves him. So on and so forth. I can't rank it that highly. I'll put it below average at best. You like Object Isekai? I mean, that's fair, yeah. But I don't know, I can't get into it because it doesn't feel too well done. Well, I mean, it's well done for its premise, but the premise was bizarre. Sword, vending machine, anything like that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'll watch them. I can finish them. I don't know if I'd ever like say they were good though. I'll normally put them below average just because, unless they actually do something unique like not having all the tropes, but I haven't really seen that yet on an Object Isekai. Alright, I think this one is She and Her Cat. It'd be Kanojo to Kanojo no Neko if I remember correctly. So it'd be K-A-N. Yeah. Everything flows. This one's an interesting one. It's very slow, but it's basically about like a cat growing up with a person and the life of the human that they are living with. It's very melancholic, so if you're not in the mood to kind of be a bit sad, I wouldn't recommend watching it. But personally, I really enjoyed it. I bought the manga for it as well. It was pretty good. I'd probably put it as an S tier, or actually, nah, SS tier, because they have such an interesting way of doing it, because it's like the owner has a very hard life, but it's from the point of view of the cat who doesn't understand. So while the girl's having a hard life, it's never like treated as the girl basically having as hard of a life as she does. It's more treated as like the owner is saying these things, she seems a bit more down than usual, so I did like these things to try and cheer her up, or like it's basically the life of the owner from the perspective of the cat, which was it was an interesting watch. Alright, this one right here. This one is oh no, I thought it was a different one. No, this is it's another isekai where the main character is way too powerful. I was gonna watch it. It was probably C tier up until the point that they decided to all of a sudden make it to where he can just like live wire, you know, stream anime into his room, so he basically became a NEET again in the other world. Which I guess similar to Mushoku Tensei, he's like taking him past self with him, but instead of being like Mushoku Tensei where it's interesting, it just ends up being like, oh wow, you used magic to solve your problem of not having TV. Good for you. But yeah, it's as far as isekai goes, it was more painful to watch than anything else. Up next, we have Hell's Paradise. Hell's Paradise was an interesting watch, I think. There was basically a chase for immortality that ends up them going to a very kind of godlike world. A tier? That's fair, yeah. I don't know if I would put it in A or S, because there's a few moments where you're just like, dang, that feels really well done. Like the blind dude, I really loved it. I didn't necessarily like how quick some of the characters were to like harm themselves, like cut off their hands. Like at one point in time when his hand starts to like have the fungus growing out, he just cuts it off immediately, which I get that was like a self-protection thing, but he was just so casual about it that it kind of was like, didn't feel too realistic. But in that same sense, I guess there was that he is a criminal, so there's probably some sort of tendencies he has that's not normal. But I'll probably put it in S tier just because there's a lot of really interesting aspects of it. I feel like I've been saying that a lot, that like the only reason I rank it higher is because it was interesting. But I mean, that's generally how I feel. It's like, wow, that has something that I never would have thought of before. So it's like introducing me to something new, so I like it more. This is, I don't remember the exact name. I want to say it's like Daily Lives of High School Girls or something along that. But it's basically like the high school girl version of the Daily Lives of High School Boys. In terms of show, I would probably say B tier. There's a few good comedic moments. Some of the characters were fun to watch. They do definitely fall into some stereotypes, like that girl right there with the blonde hair is more a like has chibunyo. So she's just kind of delusional and does delusional things, and it's kind of supposed to be funny, the fact that she's climbing a tree, but you're not allowed to climb trees. But she is, because she has the Dark Lord in her right hand. But yeah, and as far as that show went, I would say it was probably worse than the Daily Lives of High School Boys. Especially since the teacher is all like, you guys don't have to worry about me falling in love with you. Like day one, his introduction, he's like, don't worry, I'm not going to fall in love with you, even though this is an all-girls school. I didn't come here because I love high school girls. I only like college girls. So hit me up once you graduate. And that was weird, I think is the best way to put it. It was kind of like a moment that it was supposed to be funny, but ended up being more awkward than anything else. But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen. A lot of people love this show. I'm definitely one of those people. The animation is just really solid. It's really unfortunate what the animators had to go through in order to produce it. But, yeah. Oh, you hate JJK. Oh, shoot. We got polar opposite opinions here. We have someone wanting an FF and someone wanting an SSS. Oh, man. I personally would probably only put it in S. Because, like, there's a few points in time when you get really sucked into the show. But, like, I do think it was a bit overhyped to a degree. And they do have a lot of, like, I think issues with power scaling. Because you have Gojo, who's just, like, the most powerful of all time. But, like, occasionally, whenever Gojo decides to, like, get serious and the building behind him, all of the glass shatters, that's just really cool. Oh, you had too high expectations going in. That's fair. I think that's the same reason why a lot of people say that, like, Jujutsu Kaisen shouldn't be one of the first you watch, just because it sets too high of expectations for all of the other shows. But yeah, I can definitely see that point of view. There's definitely been shows that I think less of because the community was like, this is the best show in the world, and then you watch it and you're like, this is average at best. But yeah. Alright, Ice Blade Sword Wielder in Another World. Not in Another World, I forget what it is. But you brought it up earlier. This one, I don't think it's another isekai, but it's another one where the main character is supposed to be very powerful and all that. Same level as Demon Slayer. Are you talking Ice Blade Sorcerer or JJK? Because I could understand JJK kind of being in the same camp as Demon Slayer. But this one, I don't know, this one was probably D tier, lower end. Mainstream stuff? Yeah. Mainstream stuff, occasionally it's good, I think. I think a lot of times they get really blown out of proportion, so you set too high of expectations. Like, Demon Slayer, in all honesty, Demon Slayer is probably, like, B tier. The story-wise, it's probably around, like, C tier, but the animation definitely brings it up. But Demon Slayer kind of, in my mind, only has the animation going for it, because you have the character is basically just, I want to get stronger for X reason, which tends to be the plot for a lot of shows, a lot of, especially mainstream shonen, where it's like, Luffy wants to get stronger to become a pirate. You have Naruto, who wants to become stronger to become a Hokage. You have the Black Clover main character who just wants to become a mainstream a wizard, strong wizard, so on and so forth. And it's just, yeah, animation doesn't bring up ranks. That makes sense. I know a lot of people, one of my best friends included, is someone who, like, if animation is like the lowest point on his priority, it's all about the story for him. But I definitely get where you're coming from on that. When animation is too good. Well, that's the thing though. If animation is so, like, intricately done that it's too hard to notice or figure out what's happening, that's not good animation. It's just, that's bad. It's animation where the direction wasn't done very well on it, which makes the animation overall still bad. Because you can have a good, solid fight scene, but still completely understand what's happening in it. I think Demon Slayer definitely has some of those moments, but you can't tell me you know what happened. And yeah, no, I have no idea what was happening in that scene. Demon Slayer is mostly the one where it's like, I think they did really good on direction, where they introduced the right amount of details for you to understand what's happening in the fight. And while some parts during the fight, they have it where it's just going like sword slashes, like 3 per millisecond. And whenever they're doing that, you can't necessarily tell like what's happening in the fight, but they give you enough context clues to know that, like, okay, the explosions are the beads that the guy is throwing slashes. It's mostly like they do that to show you the scale of how big the fight is. So I think the direction that Demon Slayer took was really well done, but in terms of like story-wise, it's definitely lower. But yeah, I can definitely understand JJK in that kind of area for you. The animation's very pretty. I definitely put it in S tier just because, like, especially during season 1, there's a lot of points in time where I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. But yeah. Up next, we have Eminence in Shadow. I once watched a YouTube review on the Eminence in Shadow manga. Oh yeah, not manga, light novel. The light novel, they went into the difference between the light novel and the two, so I bought the light novel and read it. The light novel is definitely better, but yeah, easily S tier. Super easy to get into. Actually, I guess if it's super easy to get into, that'd fall into SS tier. The comedy is very satirical, a lot of really funny moments. It's kind of like making fun of the genre that I, for some reason, can't seem to stop watching but don't really enjoy. And so it's kind of a nice, a change of pace within that genre. Instead of, you know, it trying to take itself seriously, it tries to be as unserious as possible. Fantastic show. If you watch a lot of isekai, would recommend. Yeah, MC is pre-isekai, definitely. Yeah, the main character of that show is fantastic. Alright, up next we have Kaiju 8. Kaiju 8, I enjoyed it, but it's another one where I think more than anything the animation brings it up. Like there's definitely some funny comedic moments that happen during it, but sometimes it feels like the comedy is going too far, so it takes it out of the story. Like whenever he started peeing from his nipples, that was kind of a moment in time when you're like, oh, that's interesting, I guess. Like they're supposed to be running, supposed to be somewhat intense while still somewhat funny, but that kind of like took any intensity and completely erased it. But yeah, easily, probably A tier. Yeah, up next we have Fiona the Pirate Princess, if I remember correctly. This was one, my sister comes home one day, younger sister, she's like, Logan, I found out about an anime that I think I could watch with you. And so my art school teacher told me about it, and I was like, well, what is it? And my sister's like, I don't remember the name. And I was like, alright, what happens in the show? And she's like, I don't remember what the teacher said about that either. All I know is that it's a female character, and I think it's coming out right now. And with that, I was able to guess that it was Fiona the Pirate Princess. And she's like, yes, that's it. Yeah, this was one that we were supposed to watch together. Unfortunately, never happened. Which I guess I now have a vendetta against my sister for that. But yeah, in terms of actual show though, there was an interesting premise. At some point in time, it kind of felt like it was leaning too far into fantasy though, because at the very beginning, it seems somewhat pitched that like there isn't a lot of magic in the world. Like maybe there might be a little, but not a lot. Then as you go further and further on, you realize, oh, there's actually a lot more to this than you realize in terms of magic. So for that reason, it kind of felt somewhat betrayed. For that reason, it is a B tier for me. Yeah. Up next, we have Kaguya-sama, Love is War. Like I said, this one is probably S tier. You know, there's a lot of characters that I really liked in the show, especially Ishigaya later on whenever he meets that one character and falls in love and everything. Easily favorite scene from the entire show is whenever the president is looking at Kaguya and is like, she painted her nails. Should I mention it? And then as soon as like he's thinking this, Ishigaya sees Chika and is like, oh, Chika, you smell different than normal. Did you change your shampoo? And Chika's just like incredibly creeped out by it. And that was just a fantastic comedy moment because complimenting something like nails is like whether or not someone painted nails isn't going to be seen as like creepy or weird. So the president was definitely overthinking there. But then Ishigaya did probably one of the creepier end of compliments, and that completely turned the president off on complimenting Kaguya, which was, I thought, a really funny thing to have happen. Alright, next up we have the doctor, Ramune Doctor, I think it is. I don't remember what the Japanese title of that would be. This one's a bizarre one though, because it's a doctor basically solving aberrations. And in terms of aberrations, they're like really weird things. Like for instance, this one guy is cheating on 5 different girlfriends. And so he sticks all of the rings on one finger to be like, man, I got so many girls. And then his finger turns into a churro because he was being dishonest. Which, I mean, sure, makes sense. Yeah, the doctor is basically like a no BS type person. So when this person comes to him and is like, help, I need help solving the fact that my finger has turned into a churro, the dude's like, don't worry, I got you. So he transfers a churro from his finger over to his no-no square, so his no-no thing becomes a churro. And the dude's like, dude, what the crap is wrong with you? And the doctor is like, your finger's no longer a churro. And he's like, the only way to solve this is to basically admit your faults. And so it kind of did push the propaganda of be kind, don't cheat, and all that, which I mean is a good thing to push, but at the same time it felt a little forceful in the show. On top of the fact that it was a very bizarre way of doing it, but the show, there was a lot of interesting things happening to it. I'd probably put it in B tier, but, you know, good show overall. Yeah, up next we have a couple of Cuckoos. This is a story where 2 characters decide to realize that they were swapped at birth, and so they decide to kind of like get to know each other's actual parents and all that. And he ends up falling in love with a bunch of different people, in mostly the 3 main girls. It's another one where the main character is studious, and that's like his main quality, and for some reason that makes people fall in love with him. In terms of harems and romances, it's probably a D tier. I never at one point in time thought it was actually painful to watch, but it was pretty interesting in terms of like other things. Yeah, love triangle, then later on turns into a harem whenever like the sister realizes that, oh wait, he's not actually my sibling, he's my, I guess, foster sibling, because he was swapped at birth. Welcome back. But yeah, it was I think you missed a couple of Cuckoos, and were you there for Ramune Doctor? Those were both, I think those were the 2 most recent ones we did. Other than that, I don't know exactly. I can't remember when you stopped typing in chat, but that was yeah, left after JJK. Okay. So we did Love is War. I don't know if we did Kaiju number 8. We may have done Fiona the Pirate Princess and Ramune Doctor, and a couple of Cuckoos. Other than that, I think those are the ones you may have missed. Yeah. Here we have the other farming life in another world, I think. Let's see if I can actually find it. I think the answer to that is no. Here we are. Oh, no, this is Chilling in My 30s. All right. Oh, it's a fantastic show. SSS. Oh, so SS. But it's a yeah. I definitely agree with you there. But chilling in my 30s after being kicked from the Demon Lord's army. This would be a good one. If it weren't for the fact I was like kind of pushing the idea of you never know somebody's true ability, so like treat them fairly. It was a kind of in a fantasy land that was fairly similar to an isekai-esque world, or I guess I think that would be considered like a Tolkien-esque world, where like there's dragons and magic and all that. Yeah, it honestly just kind of felt like most isekais, so C, slightly below average. Alright, Kakishigoto. This one's a funny one. This one is honestly probably an S tier show. It's a bit on the slower end, but it's a comedy where basically the main father, there's a father and a daughter. The father's trying to basically make his living as a mangaka, but unfortunately his manga that he draws and created is a very like poo-poo pee-pee-esque joke humor, and he's really embarrassed by it, so he doesn't want his daughter to find out. And so it's basically the adventures of him trying to hide the fact that like he's this famous mangaka for a really embarrassing show, and his oblivious daughter somehow being right in the room and not even realizing it. But yeah, it was a good watch. I personally would recommend that if you're wanting kind of a more laid-back comedy show, kind of more on the wholesome end. Yeah, alright. This next show we have is this, it's another one of those shows that I'm really struggling to recognize just from the image. Ah, here we are. Oh, is this the, oh, By the Grace of the Gods. Never mind, not what I thought it was. Another isekai. This is one of the more popular ones. I personally don't understand. To me, it's another C tier. It's just a dude building a business in another world, using past knowledge to get it up and running. I've never really found shows like that too good. I think Slimed Out of Ken is another one that kind of fits in that category, and Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy. Not a huge fan of those shows, but you know, they have their charm to some people. I did, yeah. I dropped it after the Science Girl was introduced, because the show kind of had like a, you know, there was a somewhat unrealistic element, but as soon as people like in a show say, hey, this is science, but in reality what it actually is magic, I tend to really lose interest in the show, because the Science Girl is just like can somehow magically change her complete body shape and type, make herself look like an elementary schooler or a like 27-year-old woman just with a potion that she somehow made through science, which just felt really unrealistic. I think I actually watched with her on there a lot. I dropped it once that one girl left, kind of more towards the season finale. I think it was like episode 11. But yeah, I personally didn't love the show, so it was a drop. See, Science Girl in terms of personality is best girl, but I just really take issue with the fact that they're like, yes, this is science. Like because it's not, you know, but I mean, I can understand why you would say she's the best. It's because for me, it's like the conflicting feelings that I have is probably not there for, but yeah, it's an anime. It's definitely an anime, but like, you know, anime can be realistic too. Sometimes. I mean, that's not a distinguishing trait of anime by any means, but sometimes they're good. The blonde one. Are you talking to Tsundere? Because if so, I think she was a better done tsundere than most people are, but I couldn't. She was still kind of like stereotypical in that aspect. But yeah. Alright, yeah, I can get that. I think she was probably my second favorite. I like tsunderes that are well done. My favorite one is probably crap, I forgot her name. Yukino Yukinoshita from Oregairu. Just because, you know, she's like a tsundere mixed with a kudere. And so, Rin from Fate. I haven't seen Fate. My friend's been trying to get me to watch it, but it seems like one of those shows that's like, you have to have a lot of knowledge about the show already to get into it. But yeah, up next we have Tower of God. This one is I consider this one SS tier. It's a good one. Season 2 is coming out this season. Season 2 has kind of somewhat don't watch Fate. Alright, I guess that's fair. My friend's been trying to get me into the show. Specifically, I think Unlimited Blade Works. Because that's one of his favorites, because he's an animation nut, and he's like, this is the best. But yeah, Tower of God, SS tier. Most likely, well, not most likely, mostly because it's really good. Oh, it's too long. That makes sense. But I mean, I'm in middle of One Piece right now, so I'm already too deep into the long series, but isn't Unlimited Blade Works? I think it's like one season, 12 episodes are long. Wow, 12 episodes long if I remember correctly. Dropped after watching the main ones. That's fair. Yeah, I know, I think it was Garnt did a episode all about the Fate series, and it was like a 40-minute long episode, and I saw it and I was like, I'm totally down to watch like YouTube videos that are over an hour plus long, but not if it's going to be like as chaotic info dump as I assumed that one would be, so I didn't click on it. But Rent a Girlfriend, FF. The first season's good on the first watch. Every person I know, like personally, that has seen this, agrees with me that like the first time you watch it, you're always like, why do people trash on this so bad? I don't get why people hate it so much. Like, it wasn't that bad. Then you go back and rewatch it, and you're like, oh, I see now. Like, my eyes have been opened. I don't get why the first watch seems to be like somewhat good, but then you watch it again and you're just like, holy crap, what happened? But yeah, so I ended up dropping it season 2. Never could get into season 3. Monogatari series is fantastic. I have the novels for that too, and the novels are just as good. There's more to Fate that will drop even after. I guess that's true. Yeah, there's more. You're not gonna watch Monogatari. See, I'm not gonna get offended because, you know, I haven't seen Fate, so I can't really be like, oh, that's a sin. But like Monogatari, that's like peak fiction right there. Top 10. You know, you never think that you could find toothbrush scenes as crazy as that, but Monogatari opens your eyes. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's a bizarre watch though, so just prepare yourself if you do decide to watch it. Yeah. Alright, Kamirabai. This is the one where, if you guys have seen the guy on the tractor, where it's a PNG image of a tractor with an animated face on. It's the one where that comes from, where it's like the animators are incredibly lazy, but like it's almost the show's niche. But yeah. You only watched the one where it ended with glasses, crook girl to white hair girl. On the Monogatari series? With glasses girl to cute white hair girl. I think that might have been the end of season 1. If you are talking about Monogatari. Yeah, so that's kind of the final season, final episodes of season 1, if I remember correctly. The one where the white-haired girl. Yeah, so you finished the first season, which, I mean, that's pretty good. But in all fairness, if you couldn't make it past that, then you probably wouldn't like the rest of the show, because it kind of maintains that. But yeah, wait, no, it's Kaminakai Sekai no Kami-sama Katsudo. It's a fun one. It's a very bizarre watch. But yeah. Yeah, fair enough. You probably wouldn't like the rest of it then. I do think, for me, a lot of it was the art style and like their direction shots that they chose to do. I found really interesting, but if you couldn't really get into it that well, then makes sense why you would drop it. Yeah, this one, it's another isekai. In terms of isekai though, it's like so bad that it's good because it's intentionally trying to be bad, so much so that they like took a PNG image of a tractor, or not an image, but like a video of a tractor moving. They like added a filter to it and slapped on the face of a dude. So it's a very sideways image. I wonder if I can actually find it. Bye-bye. Nope, that's not it. Kaminaki tractor. Yeah, this is the image that it decided to show. And for that reason, this is fantastic. The dog animes. in terms of dog anime, I know there's Inuyashiki, not Inuyashiki's, there's a Inukai's dog. And then there's the one that was kind of a animated web manga. That was the, what do you call it? I don't remember. I think it's like Doomsday with My Dog. But those are the only two that I know of. Which Doomsday with Dog is on here, but the Inukai's dog is not, because me and my friend were going through trying to find the worst animes we've seen, and we're basically forcing each other to watch it. And that's one of the ones that we're going to sit down and watch together, so I can't watch it yet, but I've heard it's awful. Yeah, it's the one where it's like Bestiality the anime, from what I understand. Which, can't wait to watch that one. Oh boy, I am ecstatic. I am finding myself invigorated every morning when I think about how someday in the future I will be watching that show. Yeah, up next, Girlfriend. This one, it's what I think a lot of people like I like this one as like a harem anime a bit more. I personally couldn't get into it. I find it as a C tier. I thought it was funny how the characters were, for the most part, all stupid. But the only character I liked because she wasn't a part of the harem. And then season 1 at the end is just like, ooh, about Dog and Scissors. It was pretty good. Dog and Scissors. Dog and Scissors. How do you spell scissors? C-I-S-S-O-R-S. Wow, press D in there, but that's fine. It's Watchdog and Scissors. We'll just go ahead and add that to the watch list. Yeah, if it was pretty good, then I see no reason to not watch it. Yeah, that was a fun one. The Doomsday with a Dog was, but as far as the Dog and Scissors, I don't know if I haven't seen that one yet, so it's gonna be one I probably start sometime in the next month or two. Yeah, next one we have I don't remember the name of this one, but the general premise of it is that the main girl is a gyaru who normally doesn't really has toxic relationships, and then she gets together with a dude who is not toxic at all. And she's just like, wait, what is this? This is an actual good relationship. In terms of romance, it was okay. It's another one of those ones where it takes to episode 12 of season 1 to either get them to hold hands or have a first kiss. And for that reason, I don't know if I would put it any higher than C, slightly below average, because there's a lot of better romances out there. But yeah, if it's your niche, then by all means go ahead. Alright, this one is gosh, how is it so hard remembering names? It's The Day I Became a God. This one was one of the first seasonals I ever watched, which personally, for nostalgia reasons, I liked it, but instant F for you? I can understand why. A lot of times when I'm watching shows like that, I'll struggle to actually purely enjoy them, but sometimes it's really fun to like have that moment be so hyped up. Because there's some animes where it's like, I think it's well done enough that you can do it. Like, I think, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one where the first few episodes are such a pain to get through, but it ends up becoming really cute and good. It's the... I don't remember what it was. I know we ranked it last time. That's one of those ones where I'm like, they did a better job with it than most shows do, so I liked. Yeah, this one, basically, girl is super smart and predicts the future. From what I remember about it, it's probably C tier. You know, it wasn't super great, but it wasn't like impossible to watch either. And being one of my first few, I watched it with rose-tinted glasses, which definitely brought up the level. But they do a lot of things that comedy shows do, where in order for a season finale, they decide, hey, let's like amp up the drama to an insane degree. That way, the season finale can be fantastic. And once they do that, it like honestly kind of kills the show for me, which is why otherwise it probably would have been like B tier. But it was an interesting show to watch. Up next, we have the Detective Ron Kamadashi's Forbidden Deductions. Dude basically tries to kill people anytime he solves a case. He finds out that this person did this thing. He's like the world's best detective, you know, Sherlock Holmes on steroids. Doesn't even need half the clues Sherlock did. But as soon as he figures out what who the killer was, he's like, you need to die, so I'm gonna kill you. And so he's forbidden from doing any sort of detective work until he meets a guy who helps him, you know, not kill everyone. And together they solve cases. In terms of detective anime, there's some comedy moments. I struggle with detective anime a lot just because sometimes it feels like their premise of solving cases is a little bit too out there the way they solve them. Where it's like, I mean, I guess you could see how you couldn't connect A and C, but like, I don't really see the B in there. Yeah, so for that reason, B tier, slightly above average. All right, this is one of the ones I would consider a better isekai. Isekai Oji-san, uncle from another world. What this one is about is this dude, really ugly, gets transported into a world where everyone is really beautiful, and he basically has the worst time there imaginable. But one day, he's teleported back into his original world. Yeah, Conan is a good one. The white-haired girl, are you talking... what's it called? What's it called? It was, The detective is already dead, right? Because if so, that one's a fantastic one, S tier easily. Yeah, Isekai Oji-san, I put that at SS, because he transports back into the world, and it's basically him reacclimating into the normal world. And yeah. Yeah, it was. Alright, yeah, that was a fantastic show. It's on the list here too. I'm really excited for season 2. If it hasn't released already, I think I may have not watched season 2 just so I could binge it. But if it hasn't come out yet, then that's the reason why right there. Yeah, we have Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, one of the first anime I watched. This is being when I was in high school, I was one of those cringe kids who had anime shirts. This was one of the anime shirts I had, which surprisingly, you actually get a lot of compliments when you wear specifically a shirt from this anime. There's a lot of people who are like, oh man, that's a good one. But yeah, A tier? Yeah, I'd probably put it in A2. I don't know if there's any times when I was watching it that I was like, oh man, like, I'm so absorbed in this that I don't, like, my mother could call my name and I wouldn't even recognize that she said words. I never had any moments like that during it, but it was by no means above average. It was definitely above average. Up next we have the Blood Battle Brigade. No, Blood Blockade Battlefront. There we go. Yeah, I know they made a spin-off from what I understand. Oh, are you talking about the detective? That would be tragic if there isn't. I know that it was at least announced. I actually bought the books for that one too, because that one is a good one. But yeah, up next we have Blood Blockade Battlefront. This one, a lot of really entertaining stories that happen in it. It's very interesting to watch because there's a lot that happens in it that you're like, wow, that's a premise I never would have even like thought of thinking about. Especially whenever like it gets into it, it's one of those shows where instead of having like just following the main character, yeah, you're talking about the detective one. All right, yeah, that's sad. At least it was announced, so I'm excited for it to come out when it does. Yeah, this one, it's a bunch of short stories, kind of. Every episode tends to have its own kind of interest on a specific character, and it's really interesting to see the lives of all these characters who are like fighting against the society that is the alien nation and all that. But yeah, there was a few points in time whenever it got... Oh yeah, the ED is fantastic. I love the ED. Like, the one where they're all on the stage dancing. Yeah, I think it comes out in 2025. Or actually, no, maybe it's next season. But yeah, this one, I would say, probably S tier. Sometimes it tracks away from the overarching story to have it go into all the characters. So for that reason, I think it's going to go down to S, but overall a fantastic show. We're going to find out when that second season is coming out. Actually, I guess it probably would have been better to go to... I think it's next season that it comes out. If you go to manga or anime, seasonal anime, and then it's... Yeah, currently that one. Was it? Because I thought I remember seeing it here, but maybe not. Unless it's in the later. could it? It's possible that it is in the later. Oh, that's tragic. That's tragic. It's not coming out till like sometime around 2025 probably then. But yeah, I love the show personally. Alright, up next we have A Tale of Wedding Rings, another one of the ecchi if you are into that, and a harem, and another one with polygamy. So naturally I'm going to stick that one in D tier. I personally did not like it. Some of the characters were really annoying, especially once ever the beast girl gets introduced and she's basically like, beasts like to mate. But yeah, once I personally really didn't like it. Alright, up next after that we have whatever this one is. Kimono Jihen. Ah, I actually don't remember this one very well. Yeah, from the shows that you've generally said are good, I think you might like it. It's an interesting one. Dude basically gets isekai'd into a world and has to marry a bunch of people in order to become the strongest in order to beat the Demon Lord. Like, and I don't remember if High School DxD is this way, but it's like the more they love him, the stronger he gets. Yeah, this one, I remember watching it. It was average. I don't remember it enough to really talk about it. All I know is that there's one scene where like a character gets shot and it's like a shock value moment, but then it's like he isn't dead. And for that reason, I don't think it's too high on the list, but because you should never. It is a weird concept for a harem, yeah, but I mean, most of them tend to be. And you have that one. I don't remember who it is, but it's the one with the pink-haired girl, where it's like she's an alien. I think her name's like Lala or something like that. That one's just like alien comes down to the world and dates her, I guess. Dates the main guy. Yeah, this one right here is... Which one are you? Oh, she professed herself pupil to the wise men. Yeah, to love Rue. That was what it was. Yeah, that one has a weird premise as well to it. But I mean, most harems seem to have at least somewhat a weird one or a very bland MC. But yeah, this one, in terms of isekai, I'd say it's definitely above average. Probably one of the few isekais that I wouldn't say it's actually higher than C. No, it's not like not good enough to break the boundary of above average in my mind, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, if you like those types of shows. I think it came out last season or the season before that. Yeah, I feel that. I add shows at the drop of a hat. Anybody recommends a show, I'm like, alright, on it. It's already there. I get having way too much stuff, so it'll probably be a few years before you get to it, but when you do, by all means, I hope you enjoy it. Alright. Kenja Tomago. The Wise Man's Grandchild. This one is another isekai. In terms of isekai, once again, playing Final Fantasy on the side. I've heard that's a really good game. I've never played it though. From what I understand, I'm not a huge fan of RPG games. But that one is I've heard a lot of people love it. Yeah, Wise Man's Grandchild, very average, in my opinion. Kind of another isekai. Dude's really powerful, but he doesn't realize how powerful he is. I think the only time I've actually liked a story where the main character is so powerful but doesn't even realize it, dropped 3 times. Don't blame you for that. Don't blame you at all. But yeah, Talks of the Wedding Rings. Is that what it... Oh yeah, Tales of the Wedding Rings, yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I don't blame you for dropping it. It's definitely not my taste of show. Okay, this is next up we have Viral Hit, the show where a YouTuber tries to get famous by beating people up online. Animation to it, very subpar. Story to it, very subpar. General show, pretty trashy. Especially considering the fact that there's basically speedrunning demonetization, but somehow never get demonetized for it. So I mean, D tier for that one. If you manage to sit through that one, I wish you the best of luck. Because the MC looks, yeah, he looks very average, very and kind of annoying, honestly. Yeah, it's just another story where he's like, I must become powerful for the women. This one is getting into the territory of shows that I watched so long ago. A Returner's Magic should be special. I haven't seen too many old shows, no. I think in terms of old shows, I've maybe seen like 5, maybe 6. Yeah, Returner's Magic should be special. Another show where he travels back in time and can redo his life to make it better so all his friends don't die this time. But it is an isekai. D. One of the worst ones. We have Kill la Kill. Quite a strange story. Yeah, it's missing a lot of really old shows. I know that there's a lot of really popular ones that like came back way earlier. I'm actually in the middle of Great Teacher Onizuka, so eventually that will be on the list. But yeah, Kill la Kill, fantastic show. I don't know if I'd put it in SS just because occasionally I was like, wow, this is a bit too bizarre, but easily one of the better shows. One of my friend's favorites, actually. Well, actually, I have 2 friends. One absolutely loved it, and the other one was like, no, way too much ecchi. Way too much ecchi for me. I guess he didn't really like nudist speech. But yeah, up next, Demon Slayer. As I said before, story-wise, C tier, but animation-wise brings it up to B. The MC's friend. Yeah, the crazy girl? Yeah, she was such a wild person. I don't either. It's a name, I'm gonna forget it. I think it took me watching, 150 episodes of One Piece to remember Sanji's name. And with that in mind, I've never really attempted to remember the names of a lot of other people in shows. But yeah, up next we have Your Name. Animation of this, fantastic. This is one of the better takes I've ever seen on like a Freaky Friday-esque story. I'm probably gonna put it in S tier, because it did take a little bit to get really into it in the beginning, but then once you start getting to know the characters more, you're hooked, and you're hooked throughout most of the show. With main shows, it feels easier. Yeah, that's fair. Just because they're normally longer and talked about more. And so whenever you have a character that's like in your feed every day and you see the name like Luffy, you're never gonna do it. They use catchy names. That's fair. That's a good point. It might be because they use catchy names. For me, it's just because I have so much more intake of like what their names are. Yeah, up next. I think this is Kimi to Boku, yeah. This one is You and Me. It's an Iyashike, which means it's really slow. Nothing really happens. It's just a group of 4 friends that hang out. It's a good watch if you're wanting to watch something chill. In terms of show, occasionally it can get a bit boring. I watched it before I went to bed, which definitely helped on the really slow episodes, because I could watch one episode on 3 separate occasions to help me fall asleep, because it's just slow enough that I never cared. Alright, Kino's Journey. This is one of the ones where a lot of people probably disagree with me on this. Not because, well, mostly just because I absolutely love the show, but this is an SSS tier. It's somewhat similar to if you've seen The Wandering Witch Elaine, where it's a show about him, the main character, traveling throughout the entire series, just exploring every city, and she takes 3 days in every city, and once those 3 days are up, she leaves and no longer goes to anything else. No longer stays in the city, goes and travels to a different city, and it's basically just like a show completely built around world building and making different stories, and every episode kind of has like a different plot line to it. Like, it's never like she goes into the place, people are introduced to her, she's like, oh, this is a cool place, and then leaves. It's like the way they portray each place is completely different. Like, one, she comes across this traveling town that's basically on this giant mecha, and the first part of the story is like her trying to escape it and then entering it and then like realizing everything that like happens there. Then there's another one where it's like it starts off and the entire show is just 2 people talking, and it's this man laying all his grievances on the main character, and the entire like premise of the town isn't brought through like her exploring it like it was kind of done with the episode with the traveling town, but instead done with like how the dude was complaining. So how they introduce each kind of world is completely different. But yeah, it was super interesting. I quite liked it. That's why it's an SSS. Yeah, next we have Parasite the Maxim. In terms of show story, I would say it's probably S. I did enjoy it quite a bit. It was just really depressing at times. Like, it was one of the few shows that I actually had to pause in order to take a break and kind of, you know, reacclimate to the fact that I can be happy. It is a possibility, you know? Because once you're watching that show, if you get too deep into it, you're just kind of like mind in a bog the entire time. So I had to take a lot of breaks throughout that one, which is strange because I didn't have to do that with Attack on Titan. But my friends did have to. Yeah. Up next, we have Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. This is my best friend's favorite anime. Uh, it's B tier. It's slightly above average in my opinion. Storytelling, they have an interesting style of storytelling where it's SS. I don't know if I can put it in SS. My biggest reason I can't put it in SS is because my friend likes it too much, and so I have to be like a contrarian to him. But I really also hate that one character. Is it Ilulu? No, it's not. Oh wait, yeah, it is Ilulu. I hate Ilulu. Her entire personality is just like, I'm angry at you. And yeah, I don't think I like it. I think I really like Kobayashi, and I think her name was Irma, one of those two. But I like those two characters. Other than that, I won't put it below average, but my friend likes it too much, so I have to rank it lower. Next, we have a silent voice, SSS tier. Tis truly a shame that the nominations, it couldn't make it into the actual nominations for, I think, the Emmys, because, you know, the men who, you know, do the rankings on the Emmy Awards are unaware of what a good show is, because, you know, they thought that Boss Baby, of every single show out there, every movie that in existence, was better than A Silent Voice, which yeah, I know it's not for everyone, but it's my favorite. Toru, in terms of favorite characters, no, Toru's the main character. It was the blue-haired girl. What's her name? Yeah. Wait, is it not even on the? Oh yeah, yeah, it's Elma. Elma was the character that I liked. I liked Elma and Miss Kobayashi. Other than those two, I didn't find a whole lot of them very likable. Yeah. Up next, we have Love After World Domination. This one was probably one of my favorite ones to describe to friends, because you can have it's such a whack description. It's a gelato themed Power Rangers fall in love with a gelato themed Power Ranger Romeo Juliet story, is what it is. It's very interesting, I think, is the best way to put it. I don't know how to put it elsewhere. It's an idea that they had, and they executed it, and it was an anime made. Slightly below average, I would say. You know, it tried too hard to be a comedy, a rom-com, and rom-coms tend to, I think, be the easiest ones to actually kind of flop on. But yeah, it was a interesting story though. Oh, finally. I used to have a tier called Don't Remember, because there's some shows that I was bound to forget. It's from the description, it's a fun way to describe it. It definitely doesn't sound bad. It's more along the lines of one of those shows where while you're watching it, it just kind of gets a little bit repetitive, because the entire thing is we must hide that we're in love. Because, you know, the girl's evil and the guy's good. Yeah, oh crap, I did that wrong. Oh, I put a comma in too. Whoops. FF tier. Meant to add a row below. Wow, my ability to type is very subpar. Don't remember category. Alright, and we're putting Kokoro Connect in there, because I do not remember that. I know that there was a bit of, you don't mind repetitive jokes, that's fair. Yeah, I know repetitive jokes can be funny sometimes, But for me, there kind of has to be like a variety in how they are told. Not sure if you have. Oh, Komi is a great one. Yeah, I have all the manga for it, and I bought all the manga for my friend too because he likes it. In terms of show, easily, I would say S tier. Yeah, you know, it's not something that I would like put too highly just because there's a few complaints here and there, but like but I really like how they introduce the side characters and all of the variety that there is to the side characters. I think the character's name, like Najima, we'll find out what it is. Yeah, Najimi is easily one of the funnier characters in the show. All romance you skip and check the manga once a year. That's fair. Yeah, I think manga definitely tend to be better because you can kind of read it at your own pace, whereas with anime, the only way to go faster is to ×2 it, but then it gets a little bit harder to watch. But yeah, Komi can't communicate, S tier. Characters are likable, so on and so forth. My dress up darling, Dangers in My Heart, Nagatoro, Uzaki. I just keep track by checking the manga. That's fair, yeah. I wouldn't doubt it if the manga is better for a lot of those. I know a lot of people loved Dress Up Darling. Alright, this one is So-and-so Can't Say No. Komori Can't Say No. This is another one that's it's a shorts anime, so I think they're very short episodes, but if you've ever seen the clip where the guys are jogging and sees the woman doing the girls in the class doing swimming, and like the one girl looks at him as like pervert, and then it's basically like Uno reversed later on in that clip. That's what this is the show that's from. In terms of show, it wasn't that good. It was probably a bit below average. It's kind of like, you know, very ecchi. Oh, really? The worst one with recent chapters is My Dress Up Darling. I didn't realize. I thought that probably would have been ones that have good ones. I can imagine them not really progressing the romance in that story very far, very often. Just because I think season 1 came out, and the dude was just like, yeah, I'm happy being friends, or something like that. Alright, up next we have, I think it's like, This Art Club Isn't Normal. This art club has a problem. This was the first anime I ever watched on Crunchyroll. And it was an interesting one. Basically, the best artist in the club enjoys drawing his waifus. Specifically his waifus with panty shots. And it's the main girl is in love with him, and he's just trying to get you know, draw his waifus in the club. He's the best artist in the club, and so he's always the one that makes it to like art shows and everything. And so the girl's always like, why the frick are you doing that? Like, I'm putting in all this effort and you're drawing waifus and getting into like art shows and exhibits and all that crap. This is dumb. Like, how'd you place second place? But she's still in love with him. It's probably a B tier. I wouldn't rank it too high. But in terms of shows, I wouldn't say it's below average. Yeah, Konosuba, SS tier. This is one of the best comedies out there. They do a really good job balancing the dynamics of the shows and all the characters, and so it's very easily SS for me. I know a lot of people absolutely love Konosuba, but yeah, it's a solid show. I think. I don't know if the recent season was as good as the previous ones. I think there were a few points that I was kind of like, it was okay, but it definitely didn't drop its name. Oh, looks like I added. Wait, no, that's a different one. This is God's Explosion. This is the spin-off of Konosuba. No comment on Konosuba? Yeah, it's a good one. I think it's a really fun one to rewatch as well, because you forget a lot of like the really small jokes that they make. Yeah, God's Explosion on the World. This is the spin-off series with Megumin Purely. I don't think it was as good as Konosuba, but they had a lot of really good moments in it, because it's by the same author with the same like fan favorite characters, so there's bound to be a few good moments. It's also really funny because they reference a lot of when she first enters the like town, you can hear the other characters in the town kind of yelling at each other, and they're like almost cameos to the show they're already in. All right, we have Konohana Kitan. This is basically well, how to describe it? I forget what they're called. A hotel that exists in between the boundaries of like life and death, and so, or just kind of like in an area where only lost people can find it. And so it's a very slow anime about like people making it to there with all like different varying backgrounds, and the character learning why they're there, what happened to them, so on and so forth. And each character, almost similar to how Restaurant in Another World has new characters every single episode, and you kind of like learn about their history and the reason they're ordering the food they are. This one kind of has that, not through every single episode, but it's another Iyashike, which means it's a lot slower too. It is also a CGT-CT, so in terms of all of those things, I think I'd probably put it as an S tier, because there's a lot of moments in the show where you like get really invested in it, but not enough to put it in SS tier. But it's one of the few CGD-CTs that I'm like, that was actually really well done. Because a lot of times with those shows, the comedy is just like, oh my gosh, they're so darn cute, I love them. But I personally never got a lot of that. Alright, up next, we have... this is like the... being naughty. I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness. That was a interesting watch. I think it was very solid in terms of romance. There was never... Well, I say solid in terms of romance. It's another one that progresses very slowly. I mean, like in the rom-com aspect of it, most rom-coms tend to really fall flat on humor. This one tend to hit it more often than other ones. But yeah, that's where I'm thinking of putting it to B tier, because it wasn't below average, but it also wasn't good enough to say it was above average. I mean, it wasn't good enough to say it was like a good show, like there was no problems with it. I believe this one is the cool guy, the Ice Dude and his cool female colleague. Yeah, Ice Guy and his cool female colleague. This one was a interesting watch just because it's another one where romance progresses really slowly. For that reason, I don't rank it too highly. The artwork done on a lot of it was really good, but a lot of the jokes felt really repetition, so I'm gonna put it below average. Oh, A tier. See, if we're just talking like the first few episodes, I'd easily put it in A tier, because like, don't get me wrong, the characters were cute to watch and everything, but whenever, kind of later on, when it introduces more and more characters, it's like it feels like they're trying to add more variety, but it doesn't really feel like that variety is actually hitting the show, you know? Yeah, I did enjoy watching it through the first half. It was just kind of, we'll move it to B tier. You know, something good, not something I would recommend to friends though. Alright, Katoru Lives Alone. This one comes across as like a very cute one about this literally small child that lives alone, but then you like go into his past and you realize, I mean, it's still cute, but like a little bit more messed up cute, you know? But in terms of show, it was pretty good. I don't know if I was ever like hardcore invested in it. I don't really tend to get hardcore invested in shows where adults are like, oh my gosh, this child is so cute, because it feels like too much of the same thing over and over again a lot of times. But yeah, so I'm probably gonna stick this one in A tier. But I did definitely enjoy watching it. Alright, I'm probably gonna do another 5 shows and then call it quits there, just because, you know, I'm a college student and I got things to do. So if you do ever want to come back, I typically stream on, well, I say typically, I've set the schedule for Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you ever feel like joining on again during a future stream, feel free to. But yeah, so this one is Garden of Words. I know this one is super popular among a lot of different people. A lot of people really liked it. It's considered one of the ones that has an older woman as one of the main characters. I personally am not a huge fan of romance between students and teachers, which is kind of what this one was, but it was slower and, you know, they kind of had a more melancholic vibe to it, but it was a nice refresher after like a lot of other shows. I'm probably going to stick this one in A tier. I don't know if I ever got like super invested in it, but it wasn't bad watch. After that, we have The Raven of the Inner Palace. This one was an interesting one. I do think it was more geared towards the female audience, but in terms of show, they had a really solid like sound design throughout the entire show, as well as soundtrack. Those were both done really well in the show. In terms of story, it's another romance that really slowly progresses. For that turn, I think I'm going to stick it in B, but it was a good show overall. I think this is Kanbari of the Iron Fortress. Kambanari of the Iron Fortress, yeah. In terms of zombie-esque anime, I think this one is one of the better ones. I don't know if I was ever super invested in it too, though, because there was a few parts of it where I was like, oh, that's cool, but kind of confusing that it's happening right here, right now. So I'm gonna stick that one in A tier as well. Yeah, good, solid watch if you enjoy a lot of zombie shows. It's one of the better ones out there. On top of what's it called? Like a List of the Dead. Yeah, we have a Kubo-san won't let me be invisible, I think. Yeah, Kubo won't let me be invisible. This one is a very cute one. Yeah, S tier, easily. I do like the idea of the dude being like, I have to be better than her to confess. That's kind of funny that I don't think the girl really cares for in terms of that, but fantastic watch. I did really enjoy it. I really loved how it was like good luck to find him if somebody sees him. Yeah, that was one that I did get a little invested. Not enough to stick it in SS, but enough to make it above A. Up next we have, oh boy, Kuma 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 Bear. I'm gonna be honest, I did not like this one. Well, it's an isekai. So, you know, like most isekai, we're gonna probably stick it in below average. Because, you know, it was a bit too easy. Basically, main character's overpowered. Somehow makes it life really easy by being overpowered. And then for the last one, we have the Yakuza Babysitter, I think. The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. This was an interesting one, because it's basically like, yeah, S again. It got really dark whenever the dude, like, basically played Russian roulette with himself. That was a crazy thing to see happen, but solid watch. They had a lot of cute moments, but like most shows, like with babysitting, it never felt like they were pushing too hard the idea of child rearing. They never really seemed to like have too repetitious of humor throughout. The story slowly evolves, and overall, just in general, cute. All right, and so here we have the list for today. I'm going to download the PDF, so whenever I complete it, I can throw them all on one list. But yeah, so that's the list for today. We'll continue the list on Tuesday, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you feel free, like, to come back, by all means do. You could also subscribe. I think that, not subscribe, but follow. I don't think I'm good enough at streaming yet to actually, like, subscribe to me, but as soon as we get there. Thank you. Yeah, that way you get a notification whenever I pop on. Because I'm not sure how many shows we got left, but this will probably be the next 2 streams maybe. But yeah, I hope to see you there and have a fantastic rest of your day.